All right, guys. Well, welcome to our first ever Little League Fantasy Football podcast. You got your commissioner here, and then you got our current champion Jesse on the other side. We got an LLFFP, Little League Fantasy Football podcast. Pretty excited to look into this with you because I was pretty stagnant with the league manager. Let's be honest, I didn't fucking touch the thing. I was trying to get a little, I wanted to be more into it, but I could start to feel like I had maybe 2 or 3 readers, which you were one of them. I think TJ and Sully were really consistent with it. And then, people do read them every now and again, but it was becoming a pretty time consuming thing to do for 3 to 4 people that I knew were reading them. So I kind of fell off a little bit, and I apologize if the league has not felt like it's been as exciting as it usually is or interactive, and especially with COVID stuff going on. I mean, it makes it a lot tougher for all of us to really interact and shit talk. So I'm kind of glad to do this. This is honestly, everybody. This is Jesse's idea, and I'm really psyched that he came up with it. It's gonna be a lot of fun going into everything. Super psyched, dude. So how are you feeling about it? How's the year been on your end?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is a great way to get everybody engaged again. I think it's going to be just fun to hear the recaps, see how everybody's doing, see what mistakes they made, what great choices they made, and just like you said, talk some shit and have some fun. So I think we're already seeing that it's going to be good on our side. And then.
Both playoff contenders.
Yeah, both playoff contenders. I'm squeaking by in the playoffs here, but we'll see what happens from here.
All right, awesome. So we got the commission, the champ. That should be what our podcast is called, honestly. The commission, the champ. Unless you lose, then we got to change it. But we'll call it the commission, the champ for now.
Yeah, I like
that. Yeah, and then honestly, what we're thinking of doing here, guys, is we're just going to break down the matchups, talk about how everybody did this year with their rosters, their draft, kind of see how everybody ended up. Maybe go into a little bit about why people ended where they did. I mean, a lot of different factors going on. Just kind of explore it a little bit more and enjoy it. And we're definitely going to have fun making it. And so we'll just start breaking it down. I got my beer with me. And Jesse's got his whiskey with him. So we're just there you go. So let's just start breaking it down. We're just gonna start from the bottom seed, or the pube contender, and then work our way up the roster, and then take a look at the playoffs. So let's just dive right into it.
All right, here we go.
So all right, we're gonna start by looking at our last place team, who did not even get anywhere near the playoffs. The 3-10 Sheeple Shepherd, owned by one Ryan Sullivan. So Jesse, let's break down this roster we got going on here.
All right. So we're looking at Aaron Rodgers as a starting QB. Obviously, great play. Aaron Rodgers, hell of a year, hell of a season.
Honestly, surprised he couldn't at least squeak out an extra win or two just by having him alone.
I know. There's a couple times he put the team on his back, without a doubt. We got 38 points, 22, 30.
Ooh,
I mean, he's averaging over 30 points a game most games, and right there, if he's not there, he's right behind it. I mean, it's incredible.
And it's just that Tampa game in Week 6 probably brings his averages down significantly. So if it wasn't for that one game, he would easily be number 1 by a lot.
Exactly. Position ranked 2. Then we jump to the running backs.
That's where we start seeing a problem.
That's where it goes all downhill. We got Darrell Henderson Jr., 23rd rank. Pretty much hot and cold all season.
Yeah.
Hot and cold all season, number 1 back. And now that's now. We'll kind of get into some of the transactions that occurred with Mr. Sullivan here, the Sheeple Shepherd, throughout the season. You got Cordarrelle Patterson as the number 2 back.
Honestly, I did not even know that he was a running back.
He's a wide receiver and a running back, apparently.
Yeah.
But I think in this league, agency, you get the special teams, right? So this league, I feel like we get a big bonus off the special team runs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we average pretty decent.
Honestly,
games.
Not even a bad pickup, because you do get them with the returns.
Right. But you're that more like a flex. I feel like that shouldn't be your RB2 for the season.
Yeah, I was gonna say you want to max out with him as a flex, and then you got Keenan Allen, who honestly is probably his best player besides Rodgers.
Without a doubt. Yeah, let's take a look at what we got for Keenan here. I think he's definitely a top. Yep, I was going to say top 10 receiver.
Mm-hmm.
His position
Wow,
rank
it's 5.
right
I did
smack
not
dab
think
in
he
the
was even
middle.
that high.
Oh yeah, he went on fire with Justin Herbert. I mean, that guy was killing it, and him and Keenan had a connection for sure. So
This from week 7 to week 12 alone, he's got 17, 17, 20, 11, 26 and a half, and 14 points. That is
yep,
absurd.
boomed 4 of 12, busted only once of 12. So he's right on the money as far as projections go. Solid performer the whole season.
That's absurd. And then he got T. Higgins in a trade. I don't know who he got traded with.
I think we might be able to take a look at that. Let's see. So if we go down, I think there's a transaction. Hey, so I traded it to him.
I was just gonna say, I feel like it was keeping up with the Joneses trading him. So it was for Hayden Hurst, and then Sheeple Shepherd traded Travis Kelce. Or no, I'm sorry, that's a. Is that right? Am I reading that right? Traded from
So I traded him
and Hurst for Kelce.
And Hurst for Kelce. So we talked about Hurst a little bit earlier, but became a total bust. T. Higgins was on fire, I believe, when I traded. It doesn't show when was the trade date? Does it show? Oh, October 8th. So let's see. In October, we were
probably coming off like that. Was that?
What day was this? Is there a day for this? I don't know how to read these things. Too new. But yeah, so it was definitely in a good streak here in the middle, I believe, but nowhere near the value of obviously Travis Kelce for a mid-tier tight end.
It was enough afterwards where he blew up for the Eagles game, and then a week after that, I think he got like close to 10, and then after that, he got some high points. So it was a good. In hindsight, it could have came out to be a really good trade for him, but then clearly that didn't happen. But
okay, Joey B going down hurts him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And then so Hayden Hurst, not even really worth talking about. Amari Cooper, we all know what happened with that team. But yeah, honestly, Amari Cooper not putting up pretty decent numbers. Just like kind of like almost like a boomer bust option, but a solid play. Like I'm putting in Amari Cooper every week over T. Higgins.
So. Oh yeah, absolutely. Definitely the wide receiver 2 there as opposed to T. Higgins, but good nonetheless.
Yeah, and Seahawks defense historically terrible this year, so that could be a good part of it. So,
yep, looks like negatives across the board.
Yeah, I got
who knows if you
held him -2.
So it looks like he really took him in late November, so it didn't hold him too long, but.
And then you do have Mike Davis on the bench here, which honestly is a good guy to have in the early, first 10 weeks or so.
That's where it gets a little tricky. I know this for a fact because I'm the one that traded him. Mike Davis. I got Michael Pittman and Austin Eckler from him. Or no, I traded him Michael Pittman. And Mike Davis got Austin Eckler. And you
received Austin Eckler. Wow, that didn't work out for you at all.
So Michael Pittman.
Terrible.
No, I did this at the end of it. So, yeah, I get Austin Eckler right when he comes back. Mike Davis.
Okay, that makes more sense.
And Pittman come in. Mike Davis is on his way out. Christian McCaffrey is getting healthier. Mike Davis is still getting games, but let's see what he's been doing.
Yeah. I don't even think he really touches the field. So he has 0 carry. Or I'm sorry, I'm looking at touchdown. So since week 9, we'll go there. So 3 carries in week. I'm sorry, 1 carry in week 9, 7 and 10. Week 11 is 19, and then week 12 is 15 when Christian re-injured himself.
Oh yeah.
But clearly not the same guy where he was getting 20 points, 25 points.
Exactly.
So. And he's got 2 kickers on his team, so that's always a good sign. Yep. And Dak on IR. So
he was stacked with quarterbacks in the beginning there. holding on to Rodgers and Prescott, loses Prescott early, who was on fire in the beginning of the season, but still has Rodgers to back him up the rest of the season.
Yeah, if Prescott didn't get hurt, he honestly had a good trade bargaining chip there because he's got Rodgers blowing it up or Dak blowing it up, trading one of those guys to get running back or something. But it seems like he was just riddled with a lot of injuries because I know there's a lot of guys on that team right now that we're not looking at that are out for the year.
Yep.
So looking at his record, Sully started out terribly getting about, not terribly, I should say. He got 91 points, losing to Mahomes, who had 118. Mahomes always a tough opponent. And then week 2, it really sucks. He lost by 1 point to Ragerbomb's me, 132 to 133. So had a great week in week 2,
brutal.
Just 1 point shy. And then week after that, actually had another great week. So started out actually fairly strong. 142 in week 3 to 124, beating I Want You to Devontae me. Week 4, terrible showing. Week 5, terrible showing. Week 6, horrendous at 77. Week 7, brought it back up.
To beat me.
To beat, keeping up with the Joneses, who had a terrible week that week. And then another terrible day of luck in week 8 with 124 points, still losing. Week 9, 92 points, losing. So from week 8 to week 13, he finished the year with 6 losses for a final record of, what is that,
3-10.
3-10. So congratulations to the Sheeple Shepherd. That is a huge pube contender. See, then in the next team to look at is 5-8, so he's 2 lost team. Let's take a look at Hotel Motel Galladay coming forward, and that is Tyler's team, not me, the other one.
The other Tyler.
Yep. So picked up Justin Herbert, great pickup. Played pretty well.
Absolutely, top 10 quarterback on the year so far.
Even by week 2, he was putting up 24 points, 44 points in week 7. Had a terrible showing, or okay, that's the game. New England had a terrible day. I mean, that whole team did. 33 points against Jets, 35 points against New Orleans, a historically great defense this year. So that's an amazing stat. So that's a good quarterback to have. That's honestly, if his team is bad enough, that is a low-key keeper for next year.
Absolutely. Yep. And we're looking at David Johnson, Devin Singletary, Michael Thomas.
Michael Thomas is probably where the bad luck started, is just having Michael Thomas, because that was a top 5, top 6 draft choice that just did not pan out.
Exactly. Got Julio Jones, so great receiving core if they're healthy with injury throughout the season.
Yeah, another team just riddled by injuries. You got George Kittle in there on the IR. You got Will Fuller suspended. Matt Stafford, who didn't play some games. Kenny Galladay. Got Jalen Reagor, who he drafted, so that means he's held on to him this whole time. Just haven't been able to play him.
Yep.
And then you got Taysom Hill as your backup quarterback, along with Matt Stafford. So, honestly, not a great roster, I would have to say. Probably, if I had to pick between the two rosters, between the Sheeple Shepherd and this one, I might take Sheeple Shepherd just for the Keenan Allen, Rodgers, Mike Davis, well, not Mike Davis anymore, but Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Dak Prescott factor.
Yeah.
So, looking at the schedule for that team.
Let's see.
So, started off strong with an 0-2 record, 80 points and 100 points. And then they win with the 93 points just because Josh and Around, the number 1 seed, had a bad week. It then blows the hell up in week 4 with 157.
Again, me.
Against
the worst teams in the league are beating me by miles throughout the season here.
And then in week 5, got absolutely spanked by Mahomes, who got 170 points, which might be a top 5 points for in the entire history of the league. That team always blows up at some point. Right? Like, Lindsey has good drafting skills. And then a close loss to Rager Bombs, thankfully. And then another beatdown by I Want You to Devontae me. That's a hard name to say.
I know, right? I know.
With 156, 103 loss, and then 104 points next week. So pretty consistent with the scores, like mid to low hundreds to high 90s. Just really inconsistent. It's loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss.
Right. No big streaks. Pretty just back and forth all season.
The only time he had back-to-back wins was in week 3 to 4. Other than that, it was rather consecutive losses or sporadic victories. So overall, not a great year. So maybe better luck next time.
That's right. Get a healthy team.
Yeah.
Put some more talent in there. Be all right.
All right. Go. All right. So next up, we have the also 5-8 New Boot Goofin, the name that I originally wanted for my team that was taken for me, but that's okay. So looking at this guy, we got Tom Brady as quarterback. Honestly, I don't even know how he did statistically this year.
Yeah, let's see. We break into a position. Yeah, ranked 8 on the season so far.
8, not bad.
Got some pretty big games. Started out rough. Jump right back into it though.
Yeah, that's pretty boomer bust, honestly. Like those 2020 trends where it says busted 2 of 12 and boomed 4 of 12. I don't know if that's really fair to say, because if I go the first 2 weeks going 24-10, I'm thinking about benching him for week 3, and then he blows up, and then Los Angeles kills it,
right?
The Chargers, and then goes 2 weeks in a row getting into the teens against the Bears and the Packers, and then blows up again against Vegas, and then goes to the Giants for 23, 2 points against the Saints, which
absolute domination from the Saints in that game.
Yeah, 3 interceptions, no touchdowns, 209 yards. Pretty horrendous stats. Like at that point, I'm thinking like maybe I'm looking for another guy. But then, bam, next week against Carolina, 37 points, and then another game, 16 points, and then bam, another game, 27. Like it's just pretty on and off, but generally good. Like overall, I would take that as a starting quarterback, especially from a 43-year-old.
Yeah.
Honestly,
definitely
wasn't
QB1.
sure what we were going to get. Yeah. Oh, definitely QB1.
Then you got Aaron Jones. You got position 5 of the year so far. Started out hot. He was one of the best running backs, running off a 43-point game. Hit some lows towards the middle of the season.
But never lower than a 10 until week 12.
Yeah. Had some injury in the between here. So I think week 7, 8, he had like a toe or ankle or something injury.
Yeah. But overall, pretty dominant.
Yep. Definitely your keeper RB there, without a doubt.
Yeah.
You got Rojo as your number 2 running back. Let's see what else is on the roster here.
I'm honestly giving Rojo the award for me. I thought just after they signed Leonard Fournette and McCoy, and they drafted Keyshawn Vaughn. Like I thought they were done with this guy, and then bam, all of a sudden he's putting up 100-yard games. He's getting multiple touchdowns in games. Did not see that coming. He was not on my radar.
Yeah, I mean he was the one that they were going with at the beginning of the season. Bruce Arians, I think, was talking big about him, and even with the Leonard Fournette signing, I think a couple times he kind of backpedaled and said, "Doesn't mean Leonard Fournette's coming in and being the guy." And I think they showed that throughout the season.
Look, points like 9, 8, 15, 14, 25, 10, and then he started a dip with 4-3, but then he comes back with a 24-point game against Carolina, almost going for 200 yards, and then 2 points against the Rams, and then 16 points against the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm just thinking, like, that's a guy you start almost every week, but then you do that Giants game, and it's like, you're starting to down him, and then you go to New Orleans, and like, oh, okay, yeah, he's done. So maybe you bench him for week 10 when he blows up.
Of course.
To Carolina.
Can't depend on him, but he gets you some games.
So yeah, so you probably I don't know. I'm not looking at new Boot Goofin's plays per or like players per game, but like if you bench him after those 2 weeks where he does terrible, and then you like the third week when he does great, you bench him and you're like, oh crap, like I missed it. So then you put him back in, and then that very next week he's got 2 points. Like
Yep.
that's just
Yep.
that's probably why they're in the bottom three. If that's what happened there.
And you look at it too, he's got Joe Mixon on his IR, so he's already dealing with Joe in the beginning of the season. He's got great running backs. Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon, I feel is a great combo to start the year. Once that injury hits, Rojo's just the
And he picked Rojo off of free agency too. I'm seeing there. That's pretty wild. He's going to be a top three round pick in a redraft next year.
Could be, without a doubt, as long as they keep him that way.
Mm-hmm. But then I'm looking at these receivers, and I see that's where it starts to kind of fall apart a little bit.
Yeah, that's where it's crumbling a little bit. You got DJ Moore on the bench. He's out with COVID now, so I get it. But you got Deontay Johnson. Steelers receivers, you can't mess with them this season.
Yeah.
I think Deontay Johnson might have had some injury. Yeah, he's got 2 games. 2 games he missed out on. Nope, 1 game. 1 game he missed out on. He's quiet a couple games, but he's got some big games in here.
Yeah, he's boomed on 5 of them and then busted on 3. So that's kind of a good ratio to have, but you want to make sure you're hitting those right ones.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at his drafted receivers, which are T.Y. Hilton, DJ Moore, and Darius Slayton, where DJ Moore is out and T.Y. Hilton was dealing with injury for a long time. And even when he came back, he wasn't right away T.Y. Hilton. He was like, he was like 2018 Aguilar coming out of it. And then he kind of picked it up. And that by that point, it was too late.
Yep. You got Mark Andrews. He was definitely not what he was last year. I mean, he's still ranked 5. He's got some big games in here, but same thing. There's just that inconsistency throughout the season. You got some big games and you got some duds that are some 3s and 4s. And
yeah, you got 20 points in the week 1. So like, oh, I made the right choice. Then you got week 2, 3 points. Week 3, 3 points. But then week 4 and 5, you got 19 and 14. And then 3, and then 4, and then 3, then 9, and 8. So it's just a mess.
Yep.
It's honestly at that point for that team. What you do is you just leave them in there, let the dice fall where they may, and then just figure it out. Like just leave it alone. That's exactly a decision you don't even look at.
But it goes to show you where you're sitting at 5-8 in the end of the season there, right? I mean, you can't depend on anybody throughout the weeks except for maybe Aaron Jones. Tom Brady even had his bad weeks.
Yep.
But
so yeah, honestly, like overall, this team, there's just nobody you can depend on except for Aaron Jones. That's the only guy,
right?
That was really worth a consistent start.
Let's see by the schedule too. Yeah, look, the same thing as Galladay's was Hotel Motel Galladay Inn. You got almost the same exact streak, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Just lost. They had no consistent wins except for week 10 and 11 when it was already over. And honestly, like not very good points for like 108, 94, 89, and then he had a great week. His first win in week 4, 145, which is great. And then 2 more losses in a row, and then a big win against again the number 1 seed right now. And then horrible loss in week 9 with only 43 points. But like that's
brutal.
I'm looking at all of that. I'm surprised they finished as good as 5-8. They got some lucky wins in there.
Let's take a look into this 43-point loss here because I got to see.
I want to see what happened
here.
So Tom Brady that's the game he had 2 points.
Yep. So that's the New Orleans game. Gets 2 points. You got Adrian Peterson 5. You got Rojo 3. DJ Moore 2. Oh, brutal.
Here's what I'm looking at: Aaron Jones on the bench over behind Adrian Peterson, Ronald Jones, and Deontay Harris.
Oh yeah.
What is that?
Still a 10-point game for him. It's not going to make much difference. That would have got him 5 more points on the day.
His best player, and also, yeah, like his best player, and then the highest scoring player on the team was Aaron Jones. Like, you're looking at the whole team. Here's the starting line of points from QB to kicker. 2, 5, 3, 2, 1, 3, 7, 9 for the defense, and then 8 for the kicker. And then you have Aaron Jones on the bench with 10.
Highest scores, defense, and kicker, and then Aaron Jones has higher points on the bench.
Yep, he has a fourth of the points that they scored on the bench.
Absolutely brutal. All right, let's see what else we got here.
That might be a historic low for a starting lineup. And it's not like the whole team played. Like it's not like there's guys on
yeah, they're all starting. It's not like
they're all there. They all played. Oof, rough year. All right. Next up, I want you, Devontae Me. 5 and 8.
Name in the league to say.
Yep.
There it is.
Ranks number 1 and hardest to say, but
not number 1 in overall.
Yeah, record. We're only coming in at what is it? The bottom 4. So what is that? 8. Yeah. 11, 10, or 9, or whatever. Okay, let's go.
Whatever the math is.
So their entire starting, a lot of drafted players. I'm only seeing one free agent pickup, or 2 free agent pickups, one of them being a defense, the other one being a kicker. The entire rest of the team was drafted, which is actually remarkable.
Yeah, I think looking at the rest of the league, I guess, free agency, nobody really stayed completely with their draft. It looks like the most consistent team that stayed with their draft players.
Yeah. So that's kudos to them. That's a strong draft if you go 5 and 8 and your only pickups were a defense and a kicker.
Yeah, definitely.
That's honestly pretty impressive. That I don't know if they were just inactive a lot or what happened there. But anyway, so let's take a look into the team. Ryan Tannehill, run-of-the-mill quarterback, heavily dependent on the run game. So probably still got a 7 overall.
I'll say I think Tannehill's actually been having a pretty good season. He's got some good 30 bombs in there.
Yeah,
he's got a 12
lowest scoring game was a 12.
Couple 12s. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Tennessee's had an up and down season for sure, but I think Tannehill has been pretty solid, and it doesn't look like that might have been the starting quarterback here. You got Drew Brees.
Oh yeah, you got Drew Brees too. So that's even just the backup. Drew Brees having a worse year than Tannehill statistically. Tennessee, huh? Okay, well, shut me up real quick.
But I like it. So I mean, you got the running backs going in with Chris Carson.
Chris Carson's a number 1 all across the board. Like, I don't care that he's 20 overall. Like, I mean, this guy's good when he plays. I mean, obviously he missed.
That's the problem. You got these over here. He's got a couple weeks of injury he was dealing with. Comes back, right back into it. But he's got the dud here with Arizona.
But see, that's when he got hurt. So that's otherwise he'd be a top 5 running back right now. And then you got Nyheim
Hines.
Way better than I thought. Yeah, there's got to be some kick returns in there and some.
I think he's pure
receiving.
Yeah, pure PPR type running back. He's had a great season with Phil.
Look at his carries. He's only got 2 games where he's over 10 carries, but he's still got like 26 points in the game, 25 points in week 1. Yep. So yeah, he's not a legit.
He's got more receiving, or is he tied for receiving touchdowns as he is with? So it looks like he's got 3 rushing touchdowns. He's got 4 receiving touchdowns. He's got more receptions.
Yeah.
Almost than carries in some games.
Yeah. So pretty surprising for him. Like, I always thought he was kind of decent, like a good running back, but like, damn, didn't think he fancy wise. And then you got Miles Sanders, my boy in the flex there, who I thought was going to have a breakout year. I thought he was going to be the Christian McCaffrey of this year, but we all know how that's going.
Had the potential in the beginning of the season there when they were using him a good bit. I mean,
yeah. Look at the
12s.
amount of carries. You got 20 carries week 2, like after he came back from injury, then 18, and then 13, 11, and 9. So you could see the like what's going on there.
Yep.
Getting away from the run game, and then you got Devontae Adams, who is just an automatic stud. Probably top. Yeah, I was gonna say top 2, averaging 20 points a game, 34 points in week 1. Oh my God. Looking at from week 7 on, 38, 26, 28, 14, 20, 15, and 29 points. That is, and look at the touchdowns. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 touchdowns in 13 weeks without playing every how many games did he
Right.
play?
Averaging a touchdown a week, and he missed 2.
And he missed 3 weeks.
Yep.
Or no, 2 weeks in a bye. Sorry.
2 weeks in a bye. Yeah.
So in 10 games, he has 13 touchdowns, and one of them is a face mask, but I'm not going to get into that. And 1,029 yards. That's ridiculous.
Insane. Definitely the keeper there, without a doubt. Good receiving core.
Yep.
You got Tyler Lockett in the backup.
Honestly, I love Tyler Lockett as a receiver. I would have him as a number one. Let's see, he's got 3 touchdowns in 2 games. So in the Dallas game he had 3 touchdowns, and then in the Arizona game he had 3 touchdowns.
Yep.
32 points and 45 points for those games. But then he's got some drop-offs. So like against Philly, he had 3.8 because they were blowing up DK Metcalf just to rub it in our faces.
Yeah, I think that's the problem is you got a couple games where DK Metcalf, we'll probably look at him later on the other roster, but where DK just stepped up. And Lockett was quiet.
Yeah, like his rookie year, or DK's rookie year, Tyler Lockett was still the number one because they didn't know what they had yet. So he was still blowing it up. And then this year, not so much. But he still gets those kick return and punt return points, which is always helpful.
Yeah, again, another player that in this league has a good benefit with the punt and kick return special teams yardage that we get here. We get a couple extra points. I think we get a full point for every 10 yards as opposed to a couple other leagues in ESPN that might be a little lower, fractionals or something.
Yeah. So I even know some leagues that don't do any of that, and like I can understand why, but I like the kick return points.
Yeah, definitely adds a little value to some players that you don't see too often.
Exactly. Like you would not see Jakeem Grant on a roster pretty much anywhere else except for this league.
Right. Yep.
All right. So we got Gronkowski is the better than I thought. 11th overall, but honestly for tight ends that's not saying much. 2 points, 0 points, 7 points, 3, 6. It didn't get anything good until week 6 against the Packers with 78 yards and a touchdown for 16 points, and then another 3 weeks in a row, and then the Saints game was just an all-around shit show for the Bucks. So overall, not great. Not bad.
I think he started out the season mostly as a blocking tight end. I know there was a lot of stick to Bruce Arians about not really using him in the passing game. And then I think it all started to gel once they hit that Green Bay game. And then from there, I mean, you got the New Orleans game where, I mean, that's the game where Tom Brady, gets 2 points, Rojo gets 3, Gronk gets nothing. I mean, they got absolutely shut down. So that's that there. Rams, nothing really happened. But other than that, I mean, he's hitting a touchdown a game or at least, a couple receptions for over 50 plus yards. So not a bad tight end, but definitely a good fill-in. Definitely one of the higher end.
Yeah, coming out of retirement and then going from the WWE back into the NFL, better than I was expecting, but not great.
Yep.
And then you got Jared Cook as the backup tight end, who's actually both of those tight ends together. Not a bad pairing. Like, you got a good backup there. Jared Cook not having the best year, obviously. But it has some double-digit games in there. I feel like that average
season okay.
Yeah, average goes down with the missed games and then the later games where he's got, again, the Tampa Bay game, 2 points, and then and then honestly, overall, decent roster. Not obvious. I feel like just looking at it, you can kind of see why playoffs wasn't in contention towards the end.
Yep.
Not saying that as a knock. Just no great standout player. Like no automatic start every week. Chris Carson probably the best option at that point. Maybe Tyler Lockett, Miles Sanders. That's a rough one because that was a guy that I was going to say top 5, top 8 pick. So that's your number one guy in the flex position or riding the bench.
Yep.
That's not good.
Especially when you're running just draft players too. It looks like they dealt with a lot of injury and a lot of inconsistent games where a
Yeah.
player that they might have gotten off free agency probably had a better week.
Yeah. So I mean, kudos to them for sticking with their original guns and like only and like when you're picking up a defense and kicker and nothing else, then you drafted pretty well if you feel confident enough to stick with that. So great draft, I'll say that.
Absolutely.
Just not enough to get the job done.
Yep. Yep.
All right, so let's move on to the husband. I'm feeling it. One game better. So I hope.
Yeah.
I think that's Derek, right? That's
Yeah.
Derek. I'm
Yeah. I'm pretty
feeling
sure
it.
that's Derek.
Yeah.
So
Adam is Adam Thielen? Yes, he is. Adam Thielen is on the team. I wasn't sure if he was going to be on there because I'm Rager Bombs and I didn't even draft Rager.
happens without
I
a doubt.
want I wanted to change my name to no one to hold him, no one to fold him when
Okay.
Travis Fulgham was blown up, but it's too many characters. You can't fit it.
Yeah. Yeah. Too
Okay,
wordy.
so yeah, so all right. Looking at this team, another team that is very draft dependent. I'm seeing one pickup for a kicker and a defense, and then just two
Not
running
very
backs.
active throughout the season.
Yeah, so maybe those Florida guys got to get a little bit more active and then get out of the bottom five.
Yeah. Yeah.
Looking at you, Carr and Derek.
You got Ben. You got Big Ben. Looks like as this
Big,
Matt
yeah,
Ryan. So maybe they bounce back and forth throughout the season. Not too bad quarterbacks, but no one's a standout. No one's somebody that you can
yeah,
trust every week. It's one of those ones you probably do have to bounce between weeks to see who's going to have the better defense to go up against or whoever.
exactly. Yeah, you got to like flex them because Matt Ryan it was having the number one amount of throwing yards in the entire league for like the first couple of weeks, and then he kind of started to dip a little bit, but he's still top five. I believe he's I mean not top five fantasy, but top five with the yards. But obviously you want those touchdowns. So like you can see in the Minnesota game he had 4 touchdowns, but other than that, like he's only had a couple games with multiple touchdowns. So like week one he had 2, or Dallas he had 4. But then you got 1 touchdown, 0 touchdowns, 0 touchdowns, the 4 touchdowns, 1 touchdown, 0 touchdowns, and 3 touchdowns and 0 touchdowns. It's just like not very consistent.
And a couple bad games with a 6. You got a
Yep.
12. There was a 5 down here. I mean, nothing consistent. A 13. I mean, definitely some rough games. So that's one of the ones that, I mean, it's all the good
Not an
defenses
automatic.
mostly. Yeah.
Yeah, not an automatic start every week.
Yep.
So how's Big Ben? What's he?
So Ben's sitting at 10.
So Big Ben 10, not much better, but still better.
Yeah. No bad weeks. He's got a 12 in there, but for the most part, he's hitting 20.
No big games except for the Cincinnati and the Dallas game. Other than that, he's pretty average.
Mm-hmm.
Got 3 touchdowns, 2, 3. So actually, no, you're good. Doing pretty good there, honestly. Not too bad. But then you got Clyde's Edward-Helaire. You got K for short.
Came in the season as a top 10 pick in most drafts.
Not enough touchdowns to really.
Yeah, in my opinion, he didn't hit what he was expected. I mean, yeah, not enough touchdowns. They used him big a couple games. He got 26, 25 carries, but nothing major. They didn't use him in the way that I thought they would, especially in the receiving game. Not much receiving comparatively. A couple big games, but sometimes they barely use him.
Week 1, you thought he was going to be great. 130 touchdown for 20 points, basically. And then after that, like the next 3 games, he still hit double-digit points every week, but then just not enough to be your number one guy.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. So moving on, we got James Conner. Pretty standard. Not even a guy that I would really recommend drafting in the top 5 rounds the way he's played this year. Like he's just not good enough right now.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe top. Yeah. Then you got Thielen and Parker as your receivers. Yeah, Thielen actually ranked higher than I thought. 28 points week 1. Then you got a 4. Then you got a 10. Then you got 22, 24, 12, 4, 18, 28, and 17 and a half. So that's honestly pretty good. So how many touchdowns?
He's got 4 2-touchdown games. He's got
a lot of touchdowns. So overall, pretty good receiver. That's almost Like if in a 12-man league, that is a pretty solid number one guy to have. And then you got Devontae Parker, who is just not consistent at all.
I'm
Had
trying
some
to see
injury
who
issues.
else with the.
You got
There's
Mike
no
Evans.
other. Oh, Mike Evans. Okay, so Mike Evans must have been the other draft, which
Yeah.
Mike Evans hot and cold all season. You got a couple decent games. You got some 4s, 5s, 1s, 8s. Yeah, so just couldn't rely on the receivers there other than Thielen. You got
And like
Hawkinson.
when they brought Antonio Brown in, that was just kind of there's too many hands in the kitchen. Just keep giving him the ball. But yeah, you got T.J. Hawkinson, who had a great year, number
Yeah,
3 overall.
I didn't even realize he was the number 3 overall up to this point.
Yeah, neither did I. 14 points, 8 points, 7 points, so on and so on. They were both really high. Then you got a pretty weak bench, let's be honest.
Gibson
Golden
had
Tate,
a great season.
Gibson did have a good season.
Position 6.
Number 6. I did not realize that.
Yeah.
I might take that back. Gibson actually probably deserves to be in that starting lineup more than James Conner does.
Oh yeah, definitely the better RB2 of the. I put him in Hilaire as far as the whole season goes, probably in that an equal range, and then James Conner being slightly below. I mean, Gibson had a great season. I think he's got a toe injury right now, so he's going to be out.
Yeah, he's got some serious turf toe. That's what they were
Yeah.
saying, like super bad turf toe, which
So
I didn't even realize was that big of a deal.
You got great games of receptions here where he really shows off.
34 points on Thanksgiving against the Cowboys.
Games where he's a bell cow. He's
Oh.
100-yard games.
You know what? I remember that because that happened against me. That was shitty.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely great
And then of
game
course,
by him.
yeah. So here's a question: is Gibson worth a keeper consideration?
Absolutely, 100% in my opinion.
You think so?
I would keep. This is a bold take at this point. If I were to look at the running backs, I would keep Gibson over Hilaire.
Gibson over Hilaire. That is a hot take if I ever heard.
Very hot take, but I'm going with it. And I think next year, Hilaire is still going to be in the same position. I think Gibson's going to, as long as he stays healthy, is going to consistently trend up.
Yeah, I mean, well, when you think about the passing game for Washington too, like they don't have it. So depend on the run, I feel like. So
and he's like one of the only guys.
Options.
I mean, you look at the Chiefs, they got a ton of great weapons, and you look at the Redskins, they got Terry McLaurin, they got Antonio Gibson, they got Logan Thomas too, I guess. So it's like 3 people where there's like 7 on the Chiefs that they could use at any moment.
It's a good point, but if the Washington team decides to address the passing game by getting a quarterback or more receivers other than Scary Terry, that maybe he gets a little less looks. I don't know. I'm thinking CEH and Gibson if you get 2 keepers. Instead of, and I never would have thought that with a team that had Mike Evans and Adam Thielen on it, but that's what it looks like.
Especially since running backs are so thin too, I feel like you could get the value that you ultimately got out of Thielen, Parker, and Evans later in the draft.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, running backs go thin. So honestly, yeah, I'm thinking Gibson and Hilaire as your keeper. Like get James Conner out of there. Honestly.
Yep. But other than that, nothing special. You got Burkhead. I mean, McKissick's a great fill-in now that Gibson's hurt. I mean, let's see his last game here. I think he had a pretty good game. Yeah. 12.8 points. He's got a 14, a 12. So in the games that they really used him in the receptions, I mean, he's coming up big, but
yeah. So all right, let's take a look at their record, or their schedule. I mean, so we got week 1 against Rager Bombs. Yeah, Rager Bombs with their worst showing of the season was in week 1, where Thielen had 111 points to their 91, so started off strong. Then 123 points week 2, and then 139 week 3. So hit the 100 club 4 weeks in a row. Started out 3-0, honestly, like a top dog in the beginning, and then that's when the wheels started falling off. Like 108 points, still pretty solid, but not enough to meet Lamar the Marrier, who always shows up. And then keeping up with the Joneses. Jones is like pretty much crushing. Getting a squeaky win against the shit team and the Sheeple Shepherd in week 6 with
the
91
shit
points.
Team and the Sheeple Shepherd.
The shit Sheeple Shepherd. and then 3 straight horrendous losses where they weren't even really that close to the 100 club. And then 2 good wins in week 10 and 11, but at that point it was too late. And then a amazing loss. I'm calling it amazing because it was to me. I had 180 points in week 12. They just had
Oh,
no
wow.
shot. I think that I want to get to one point where I want to see if that is the most points anyone's ever scored. It might be up there. I think somebody had 190 at one point. I think that was when I had the Peyton Manning MVP season where he had 55 touchdowns. I think I had 190 points there.
Yeah.
At one point, but moving on to like beyond that, I think that might be up there in the top 3. And then just another crappy loss in week 13. So, just overall, good team with some bad luck and some shitty performances in the mid season.
Same thing. I think that holding your draft team hurt them a little bit throughout the season, and the times that some of these guys were either hurt, weren't getting the production that you expect, and maybe there was a guy on the waivers that they could have picked up that would have helped them out in those
Yeah,
weeks.
maybe a great point. Honestly, if they had a little bit more activity in the free agency, this might be a top. This is definitely a playoff team that just didn't cut it by being active enough. So, Derek, if you're listening, try harder next time, and we'll take you more seriously.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on, here's to the last of the loser bracket here. We have Mahomes, which I'm gonna be honest, this shocks the hell out of me. Mahomes, I could always consider an incredibly big threat to every matchup. Like, they're putting up crazy points. It's not even just the Patrick Mahomes factor. Their draft is super strong, and you can tell by looking at their roster. I'm seeing like all their players, all drafted. They have 4 free agents on their team, 1 drafted player on IR. So that's another reason like they had to pick somebody up. So always a great drafter. I don't know where they're getting, if they're getting help from anybody, or if they're just getting really lucky, or if they're just legitimately awesome at fantasy football. But I got to give Lindsay props because Mahomes is like every time I see that team show up on my schedule, I'm like shit.
Definitely makes me nervous too, without a doubt. I think the Mahomes always scares me. I'm always trying to send trades throughout the season to Mahomes, and I'm always getting rejected because there's somebody I want to go after that I just can't get from them.
Yeah, they just don't budge. They set their lineup every week and they kill it. Yep. Except apparently not enough this year to make the playoffs, which honestly is the biggest surprise to me.
Yeah, we got to look at the games for this. I'm wondering if there's just some close matchups where they just couldn't cut it, or if just underproduction or what.
I already have it pulled up, and I'm already so we'll go over the roster first. But I already have it pulled up, and I'm looking at the points that they were able to score. I'm a little bit surprised, but let's take a look. Obviously, we got the keeper Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. I'm assuming that is a number 1 or number 2 or number 3 because Aaron just okay. So number 1.
Number 1, you got Aaron Rodgers too.
31 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. That is remarkable.
Yeah.
That is better than Nick Foles in 2013.
2 rushing touchdowns.
I'm just blown away by that stat. And only 1 fumble lost. So let's look at the points. 26 points week 1, 31, 48, 24, 33, 24. 14 points against Denver, which is surprising. His only game where he only had his only 2 games where he had only 1 throwing touchdown were both against Denver.
Yep. Tough defense.
Yeah. And then other than that, he's gotten 20 points or higher in every game except for when they played Denver.
Crazy.
So I'm going to remember that factoid for next year.
Yeah, right.
When I play him. So if Mahomes is going up against Denver, don't worry too much.
Yep.
But yeah, always a stud. Probably going to win MVP this year. Sorry, Russell Wilson. I thought it was finally going to be your year, but it's not going to be your year.
Russell was cooking in the beginning, but he definitely has had some trouble as of late, and I think Mahomes has stayed consistent, kind of as he's shown to do.
Yep. And then here's where we get a little interesting with the running backs that are in. We got Kareem Hunt, which is an RB2, and then you got Todd Gurley, is just also an RB2. I feel like on the bench there, and then Damian Harris who they drafted. Kind of. I mean, Kareem Hunt, I feel like is actually probably up to an RB1, especially when Nick Chubb went down. He was killing it. Even when Nick Chubb was in, he still kills it. And then Todd Gurley, who honestly, I was not sure what you were going to get out of Todd Gurley this year. I didn't know if he was going to be a number, like he was going to revive his career in Atlanta, or if he was just going to fade away. Kind of got a little bit of both, because you have the beginning. You got double-digit games for points, and then you got some stinkers. Like you didn't really know what you were going to get. You got 12 points week 1, 6 week 2, 14, 18, 23. Then you got 8, and then 21, 10, 12, and then you got 3 points in week 11, and then he got hurt, and then he got 2 points. So like overall, did much better than I was anticipating. But just like that's an RB1 stat line. Actually.
Yeah. I think I can agree with that.
Yeah, and then you got Kareem Hunt, who's always just a stud. That backfield is just ridiculous.
Yeah, they've had a killer season, even when Chubb's been in. I mean, he's had decent games. You got these first couple of games here where when Chubb was in, and he's hitting 23, 13, 19, 16. Just a couple duds here and there, but for the most part, he's been consistent. Definitely a running back. Probably one of the most dependable running backs on this roster throughout the whole season so far.
Yeah, honestly, that's an automatic start every week, even when Nick Chubb is in. So that's a good stat. And you got the number 1 defense there in the Ravens. So that's something not to or I guess number 5 defense. I thought it was 1. But those rankings move around a lot. Not something to scoff at, because like those defense, like you look at that, you had 25 points, 12 points, 16 points. Like any defense that gets you consistently over 10 points is a defense worth drafting.
Right. Yep.
And then here's an interesting fact: they drafted Divine Osgibo, the Jacksonville backup running back, and then they kept him, and he hasn't done diddly poo all year.
Diddly poo. I was to say, I think he was on COVID IR for the first 6 games. Plays one game, 0 points.
Had 0 carries for 0 yards. Okay, so they have no rushing yards. 3 receptions for 5 yards for a total of 2 points on the year. So for 13 weeks, this guy has gotten 2 points in 4 games.
Yeah.
And that is a guy that this team drafted, and I think that might be where we see the failure of this team, is just not enough activity on the waiver wire, keeping this guy that I didn't even know was alive.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a waste of a bench spot throughout the whole season. I mean, even
you got 2 kickers on the roster.
2 kickers, you got 2 quarterbacks. When you have, I mean, like once you get Goff and you use him for that 1 bye week, see you later. You don't need him again. Like you go pick up somebody else you can use throughout the weeks.
The only reason to keep Jared Goff is, like you said, is if you have Patrick Mahomes, is to
bye week fill-in,
or to keep other players from picking him up.
True.
And he's not worth like hoarding like that for a bench spot. You could take Goff out. And you have 3 tight ends. You don't need that. You have Hunter Henry, Darren Waller, and Austin Hooper. You don't need all 3 of those guys.
Yep.
So you can kind of see where the cracks peaked in. And then DeAndre Hopkins being on a new team, you didn't know where he was going to end up. But overall, I mean, obviously he was going to be great no matter what. But just not like DeAndre Hopkins, Patrick Mahomes, and Kareem Hunt aren't enough alone to get you into the playoffs.
Robbie Anderson had a sneaky good season in the beginning there.
He did. He was looking like a true WR2 or WR1. But then, like you said, just dropped off.
Kind of hot and cold throughout the rest of the season. He's got a couple 10s, under 10s, and then he hits a 17 week 12, but not enough to get you there.
With confidence. Not enough to start with confidence. So overall, and you got 2, like I said, 2 kickers on the roster. Then you got this guy who, Tim Patrick, who was sneaky decent for a while. Like he had some big games.
Yeah, when he played, he had Locke on the docket there. He's got the 20. He's got kind of steady games going out throughout here. I think this was the New Orleans games where they didn't even have a quarterback. They had some other guy playing quarterback.
They had God, I can't remember his name. The practice squad wide receiver. He was in sales a month before, and yeah, that's what it says. He was in sales a month before, and then he's a starting quarterback for the Broncos.
Can you imagine, like, you're just
against the
like
toughest
sitting in an
defense.
office chair, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, you're going to start an NFL football game next week. You ready for that?"
Your phone rings like, "Hey, you want to play football? Like on our practice squad?" Like, "Yeah, sure." And like, "Oh, you played quarterback in what, middle school, right? Like,
Yeah.
how do you want to start up against the number one defense in the country?"
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, let's do it. So so clear reason as to why no points for receiving points on that ball.
Yeah. But jumps right back to
Okay.
it, an 18-point game, and
So looking at So looking at the roster, strong draft is not enough adjustments to get the job done. So let's take a look at the schedule. So started out really strong. Made the 100 club the first 5 weeks of playing. So like you can see here, 118 points against the shit shepherd. 136 against Deflator's going to deflate. That's nice to see. I always love it when that team loses. And then see like week 3. That's just an unlucky loss. They had 124 points, which is normally enough to get the job done. Then Ridley's, believe it or not, came in with a banger. And then came back to their winning ways with 100 and I can't see the 119 points. I had some stuff on there. And then 170. Hold on, pause real quick.
oh goodness.
Bless you. All right.
Bless you.
I said it.
Bless yourself.
Well, that's what I did. A Quinnen Williams there. Okay, resume. So yeah, so 2 weeks in a row where they had 119 points, 170 points against the Hotel Motel, and then a stinker against.
I gotta selfishly look at this stinker here because I don't even remember this, but
see what happened.
This is going up against me here. I mean, you got Mahomes hitting 24 right under, Gurley 8, Kareem Hunt 6, DeAndre Hopkins 8. I mean, everybody absolutely dropped there. What's on the bench?
Shitting the bed there.
Darren Waller's on a bye. Tim Patrick had a good game. Cole Beasley had a good game. Not enough across the board, though.
Yeah, you had Travis Kelce with a big game, so that was a great pickup for you. Cam Newton, not that great. Actually, Ryan Fitzpatrick doing better on your bench. And then Mike Davis having 10 points. That's okay. CeeDee Lamb with 9. Yeah, really riding the back of Robert Woods and Travis Kelce for that win.
Yeah, without a doubt.
But, okay, looking forward onto that schedule. Yeah, 3 tough losses.
Just drops again. Yeah. Whew.
Lost to Rager Bombs. Good team there. By just 5 points, and then a 40-point loss to I Want You Davante Me. And then funny enough, they played New Boo Goof in that week that they had the horrendous 43-point showing. And then 3 straight losses to knock you out of playoffs. So not even hit like 83 points, 95 points, 89 points just to end the season, and then a 144-point banger just to say fuck you to Rager Bombs at the end of the season.
One last see you later.
Exactly. Yeah. Just be like, all right, I'm not making it. Keep Rager Bombs out of the bye week. So thanks for that. Moving on. So I feel like just for that team overall, probably going to keep.
Let's go back to it.
So Patrick Mahomes, obviously, and then I would have to give it to rather Kareem Hunt or maybe DeAndre Hopkins and Patrick Mahomes for their keepers this year. I honestly think that Kareem Hunt has done enough to warrant a keeper spot, but I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is also DeAndre Hopkins, so it's gonna be.
Yeah, I'd almost go DeAndre Hopkins again. I mean, they had a tough season, but I think he's still far and above a higher wide receiver in his field than Kareem Hunt is in his field.
Honestly, that is an excellent point because I think DeAndre Hopkins might be the best receiver in the entire league.
Oh, yeah.
And Kareem Hunt, you're right, does not even breach like probably the top 10. He might. It's just kind of hard when he's the number 2 guy on that team. So yeah, it's got to be Mahomes.
That's the problem too. He's the number 2. I mean, DeAndre is far and above the number 1 on his team, right? So
yeah,
that's my thought.
in 15 teams in the league, Kareem Hunt's the number one guy, maybe more.
Yep.
But yeah. But okay, so you can kind of see the flaws in the game. It's just not enough active pickups, I feel
Yep.
like, to keep it going. Especially when what's that guy's name? Divine something or
Divine
whatever.
Zigbo.
Unless you were just waiting for James Robinson to break his leg,
Right.
no reason to hold on to that guy.
Exactly.
All right, so now let's get into the big boys, the playoff contenders. We're going to start with the number 6 seed, Lamar the Merrier. Looking at this roster, I'm seeing a lot of Q's, a lot of D's, so that's not good.
Yeah.
But a lot of free agent pickups. I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys that they drafted, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 free agent pickups. Looks like no trades that they stuck with. I guess.
Now this is where the free agency comes in. I mean, James Robinson was a free agency pickup in response to Christian McCaffrey going out, and that filled exactly almost what Christian McCaffrey was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's the number 4 running back in the season. He's got multiple 20-point games, steady throughout most of the season. I mean, that shows you where the free agency comes into play.
Yeah, if Mahomes was lucky enough to pick up a James Robinson type early on, they'd be the number 1 seed right now, probably.
Yeah, right.
But that's also one of the detriments to winning early is you don't get those sleeper superstars. Like you could see DeAndre Swift was a draft pick and James Robinson was a free agent pickup, and that is just like honestly like if you're trying to trade Ezekiel Elliott for James Robinson right now, the person that has James Robinson is spitting in your face.
Yeah.
Like,
seriously.
that is like just being like, how dare you offer me that shit? Like get out of here. Like James Robinson is just an all around stud on a team that sucks.
Yeah.
That being said, I mean, you got Lamar Jackson obviously not playing as well as he did last year. We kind of assumed that was going to be the case, but he still went high in the draft. If not, it wasn't a keeper. I don't remember honestly.
Yeah, I think he drafted and he went too high in all drafts for what he ended up producing this year. I mean, he's 12 on the year. He had the game with COVID that he missed. Other than that, I mean, not blowing up like he did. He's got a couple 30 bombs. Some 18s. Yeah, just not as consistently productive as he was last season to really carry it through the league like he did before.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, so like when I'm looking at quarterbacks, I'm thinking of bomb quarterbacks. You want consistent like high 20s, 30s, if not some 40s in there. That's how big these quarterbacks have to be in order to be star quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And then you got Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, that was a huge blow. But see, like he was just active enough in the free agent pool to stay in it with that James Robinson pickup.
Chase Claypool.
You got Chase Claypool. It's a fantastic pickup.
Antonio Brown, J.K. Dobbins.
Yep. You got Ryan Fitzpatrick there at the body. You got the Bears defense. The Saints defense is a free agent pickup. Just honestly, like this free agency really saved the team.
Yeah.
You got Dallas Goedert, who was drafted, not doing much of anything, getting touchdowns here and there. Latavius Murray, who was drafted, not doing much of anything. And you look at these free agent pickups, and it's just stellar pickups.
Yep. And you look at the wide receivers, you got Tyler Boyd drafted and A.J. Brown drafted. I mean, that looks like almost the starting 2 receivers unless somebody went out that they dropped. And at that point, I mean, Boyd didn't hit the expectation that we really thought from him. He's steady, I guess, here and now, but he's not even honestly, steady. Bad games.
It's a debate between him and Higgins. Like if you're
I mean, Higgins definitely blew up to almost become the one.
Yeah. So
you got AJ Brown.
AJ Brown. I mean, he did miss some games, but overall, he's the best. Like one of the best players on that team besides Derrick Henry. So always worth a start in any time. Jonathan Taylor having a decent year, I believe. I don't know if he was better than Hines. No, he was not.
19. Yeah, he bounced back and forth. I think his
Mhm.
problem was they didn't use him in the way that they used Hines. They didn't make him the bell cow, but they didn't put him in a role that he could be productive. So
Right.
he's got some games where he did get the carries. He did good, or he was productive off the minimal carries that he got, but they didn't really give him a chance to shine. Kind of feels like.
Yeah. It's you see week 2 he had well in week 1 he had 9 carries
Right.
and 6 receptions, which is okay. But then in week 2, 26 carries for 101 yards and a touchdown. Like they were like it seemed like he was going to be the dude. And then you
Yep.
go play the Jets and then it's 13
13
carries, 59 yards, a touchdown, nothing great. 17 carries in Chicago, 13 in Cincinnati. So just basically the bell cow, not a guy that's going to get you a lot of points every week, but just a guy on the team.
Yeah.
And then Green Bay got 22 carries again. So he's only had more than 15 carries maybe 3 or 4 times. And then honestly, Dallas Goedert, it almost breaks my heart to talk about. I thought like he was going to cinch the. I thought he was going to become a top 5 tight end. I still think he's a top 10 talent wise, but that's like just not a fantasy producer. Even with Zach Ertz out, he just couldn't get it. I mean, it's not all on him. As a lot of it was quarterback plays. We all know.
Right.
So if you listen to 94 WIP, we all know about all the shit that they're going through.
Oh yeah.
But overall, decent draft with a great free agency pickups. So
Agreed.
let's take a look at their schedule. See how they did. They're actually got some players going right now. So lost week 1 by 40 points, even though they were in the 100 club, and then beat Nubu Goof in week 2 with 131 points. So let's see. So they went the first 4 weeks going over 100 points, going 2-2, and then had a shit week where they had 70 points against the Sheeple Shepherd of all people, who only had 83 that week. So they just did worse than the worst team that one time. And then back to the 100 club for the 2 weeks in a row, 101, 124. Then another game. So basically, anytime that they're not hitting 100 points, they're losing. But overall, like great points
Yeah.
for even beating teams. So like, I mean, obviously they lost to 162 points for Rager Bombs. Honestly, Rager Bombs apparently having a great season.
Me and you, look at that, keeping up with the Joneses, a 164.
Yeah,
So I mean, we're the weeks that Lamar lost mostly were ones where they just got outscored. It wasn't
yeah,
like they
yeah.
had a bad
It's
week
nothing.
overall.
Mm-hmm. That's a fantastic point. Yeah, it's literally like any time that this team lost, it was just the other team had a great week. Like
Yeah.
you have to have a great performance against this team in order to win. If you go lower than 90 points or lower than 100 points against this team, you're likely going to lose.
Which scares me because that's who I'm going up against this first round of the playoffs here. And I think I have
Apparently, you have
let's take
10
a look at
points.
it live here. I think Cam Newton's only got
Yeah,
10 points, so not
yeah.
a good
This is
look
a
for me. Oh, I got a total
live.
of 10 points. This is
This is a live look at the matchup right now. The first round of the playoffs between Keeping Up with the Joneses and Lamar the Merrier. With Keeping Up with the Joneses actually being the 3rd seed, Cam Newton with 4 points. They actually heard they just took him out. I think he's hurt or they're
oh
benching him.
yeah, this
And
looks
then
like to be a
Robert Woods
quick
5.
knockout here.
It is actually a complete blowout. Is that the? Yeah. So the Rams are destroying the Patriots. It looks like right now, 24-3 at the moment.
24-3. You got
Yikes.
Cam
And
Akers, 27 carries, 169 yards.
oh my!
Cooper Kupp,
You know,
5 receptions, 34
I
yards, 1 touchdown.
I thought about picking him up this week.
Cam Akers. That's a man on my dynasty team that I am so happy I drafted. He scared me in the beginning of the season. I thought he was going to be a dud, but
Yeah,
he's picking up, man. He's going to be good.
dude, that Rams running back room is so confusing. You got
It
Daryl Henderson,
is.
Malcolm Brown, and Cam Akers. I'm like, I have no idea who the starter is at any point.
Yeah, I think it's trending towards Cam Akers. I think the end
It's
of the season here is
it's definitely gonna be.
going
Yeah,
to be Cam Akers' house.
I wonder who. We haven't even seen Cam Akers yet. I don't know whose roster he's on, but whoever's. Oh my God! If it's on Jack's roster, I'm gonna be pissed.
Might be. Let's see. Yeah, so let's I mean, again, scary team to go against. We
Great
just
year,
saw it
just
live.
bad. Yeah, yeah, exactly. We just saw it live, like you said. Yeah. great year all around. Just had some unlucky losses, like those
Yep.
two 160 game losses or 160 point losses. If it's on Jack's team, I'm going to be pretty upset. No, because he's got Calvin Ridley, Raheem Mostert, and I didn't see the other one, but it's fine.
Sorry, I'm trying to flip through, see if I can find him real quick.
Fine. He's probably on somebody's bench.
He might be. He's not on waivers, is he?
Oh my God! Wait, he is, because I remember I wanted to
Somebody
pick him up
dropped
and
him,
I didn't.
right? I think somebody dropped him, and he was going to be kicked to next week.
So that's probably like, yeah.
I'm curious. Live here. Let's see.
Yeah, curious free. Wait, if you
Yep.
can't pick him up right now.
Free agent.
Oh my God! And he has 20
points. Yeah,
20 points on the
got
waivers.
Dropped. Let's see who dropped him. I just looked at this. Oh, so Hotel Motel dropped him on Thursday the 5th, which kicks him into the next week. So
November
he couldn't
5th.
pick up this week.
Wow, that's crazy. See, that's another reason why that team's not
Yeah, exactly
in the playoffs. You can't predict when the wild running backs are going to go off. But okay, so yeah, Lamar the Merrier, solid roster. Good luck with that. Keep Jesse. So we'll see how that. Next up, yours truly, Ragerbaum, 7-6, disappointing record. Granted that they have the highest points for in the entire league, possibly in league history. I have to double check on that. I'm not sure, but 1,500 plus points for this team. So definitely in the top 5. So let's break down the roster. Jesse, I'll let you kind of take a little bit of it because I've been looking at this roster all year. So
yeah,
I was
going to say, I think it's good for our rosters that we each kind of grade each other here to get an unbiased opinion in a sense.
Yeah. So honestly, go for it. Like, you can talk negatively as much as you want. You can talk positive. I don't care what you do. I just want to hear some fair feedback.
Yeah.
But I will say one thing that I drafted Deshaun Watson. I did not want Deshaun Watson. He was auto drafted to me by accident. So for some reason when I had my laptop, my computer glitched. I tried to pick up Melvin Gordon, and all of a sudden my computer just kind of blitzes out. And all of a sudden I saw Deshaun Watson on my lineup. And I was like, shit, that was way too early for a quarterback. I actually wanted Josh Allen on my team.
Who also had a great season.
Yeah, who had a great season, an MVP type season. So I wanted Josh Allen, but Deshaun Watson's who I had, so ride or die. Anyway,
all right, so here we go. So Deshaun Watson, I mean, let's take a look. Position 6, top 10 quarterback for this season here.
Not bad, honestly.
He's been back and forth, couple lower end games, but he's had some killer games. You got a couple 40s in here, you got a couple 30s, and then you got solid 20s outside of that. I mean, he's been a performer.
Yeah, his worst week was 19 points, which is actually pretty solid. But yeah, you're consistently in the low 20s, so not enough to okay, so it was a 16 to the 19. So he overall had some great points, like 22s, a lot of 20s, a couple 30s, a couple 40s, just a couple disappointing games that really kind of cost me in the end. But overall, couldn't ask for much of a better quarterback. I mean, I could probably ask for 5 better quarterbacks because he's the 6th one. But
right.
But overall, great.
And then jumping into it, you got Derrick Henry. He's been an absolute monster, as we kind of expected after seeing how he performed last season. He's number 3 running back on the season. Killer games, 37, 39. And then in between, he's sticking in some, solid RB1 games, couple lows and some tough defenses. I mean, Cleveland absolutely crushed him last week, so it's a tough one to look at. But other than that, absolute solid performer and your absolute running back 1 there.
That was my keeper going into this year. I remember when I drafted him the year before, I was like, I thought I had a great roster, and my only weak hole was Derrick Henry, and that was the year that he became the King Henry.
Right,
so,
right.
And then wide receivers had some injury issues. Chris Godwin was my second receiver coming off the board. Didn't play as much as I wanted to, and then they picked up Antonio Brown, which cut into his reception, so that hurt. But you got Tyreek Hill there, who I will always preach is a number one. Yeah, see, there you go, number one, number one.
He's number one because of this. I think
Because of this
it's
type of big game,
a
yeah.
little hidden here because of the 51, but still a consistent receiver all season.
I mean, worst week was 4 points against the Bills. Other than that, it was like it was 10 points. So yeah, let's go. Week 1, 13, 19, 18, 14, 16, and then 14, 23, 28, 21, 51, and 11. Like, that is just a monster year.
Yep.
Basically what I was expecting. I hope nobody wants to draft him this year because he will be staying on my team.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, he should absolutely be the keeper in my opinion. I think it's Derrick Henry, Tyreek Hill. No second thoughts about the rest of the roster there.
Right.
But you got Chase Edmonds as the RB2 currently. Looks like maybe Melvin Gordon or Montgomery might have been the number 2 going in unless somebody got dropped.
So yeah, I think David Montgomery was my number 2 originally, and then Melvin Gordon was going to be my flex.
Okay.
And then I had a bad week 1 week, and then I picked up Chase Edmonds, even with, I think, Kenron Drake still in the lineup. And then Chase Edmonds ended up being a stellar pickup for me.
Yeah,
Just
Chase
like
Edmonds
almost
had a solid
automatic. Yeah, minus a couple of games where he had like 2 points, 3 points when I didn't even really start him. He's been a consistent RB2. More consistent than Montgomery or Melvin Gordon ended up being. So honestly, super happy with that pickup. Top 10, yeah, literally number 10 running back, even with Kenyon Drake on the roster, who was like a number 1 or round 1 running back. So couldn't have been happier with the production I've gotten from him. He's got, what is it, season stats? So actually a lot lower than I thought. So he must get a lot of touchdowns or something. Was it like 400 rushing yards? And I don't even know the receiving yards, but so you can see there the trends. He boomed in 4 games and busted in 0. So overall performed exactly up to the standards that I was looking to get out of a guy I got in free agency. So really happy with that pickup.
Yeah, fun fact about him too. He actually, I believe, went to Tyler, the other Tyler in the league's high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
Wow.
so very, I think within the same. What's his age here?
He's got definitely younger than we are.
Yeah.
I don't know. Here, let me stand by. I'll get that up if you want to keep looking at the roster.
Yeah. So, looking at the rest of the roster here, Mike Williams, like you said, Chris Godwin was the number 2. He was hurt most of the year, and then that receiving cord, even with Gronk, kind of gets muddled, and it doesn't really make a clear wide receiver 1 like you thought he was going to be kind of coming into the season based on the way that he produced last year. Because last year he was a top 5 guy.
Yeah.
This year, not so much. Let's see, at 47, I mean, he just didn't play, and then when he played, he's got some low games, but then he shows consistency. I mean, the biggest problem is he didn't play. If he played the whole season, maybe you had a chance to grow something with Tom Brady. But yeah, unfortunate pickup there.
Yeah, I honestly thought going in Chris Godwin was a steal when I got him. I think I got him in like round 7, and I'm like, oh, like Tyreek Hill, Derrick Henry, and Chris Godwin, like I'm unstoppable. And then Chris Godwin all of a sudden didn't play a lot of games. When he played, he played hurt and didn't do anything substantial. Too many cooks in the kitchen once again for that team because the running game's ridiculous, receivers ridiculous, tight ends ridiculous. Just not enough to keep a solid spot.
Yeah. Yep. But then if you look at the running backs, I mean, David Montgomery, you got 13, you got Chase Edmonds at 10, and you got Derrick Henry at 3. I mean, you had those running backs playing all year for the most part, off and on, depending on the matchups, maybe sometimes. I mean, you got a solid running back core that are sitting there that could kind of compensate for some of the wide receiver issues that you might have been dealing with. Melvin Gordon had some good games.
Obviously, even with that low rate, like he had some solid games. Like you see, 14 points, 15 points, 24 points, 18 points, 14 points. He just had his dips. Something kind of hard to. So you see, he boomed in 3 games, busted in 2, which is not a trend that I like to stick with. So having those backups in Edmonds, Henry, and Montgomery, just coming to choose between those four guys, obviously keeping Derrick Henry in 100% of the time, it
Yep.
was a good issue to have. It's just like, which good running back do I want to put in this week and risk it with?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the thing is there was no clear cut RB2, so it makes it a little bit of a challenge to say who's
Yeah,
going to have the better game.
exactly.
Not a bad challenge to have, like you said, but could definitely get you in trouble some weeks.
Yeah.
And then,
But to toot my own horn a little bit, I feel like I had some great pickups with Jonnu Smith, especially being one of my best pickups of the year. I
oh
think he might
yeah,
be a top
yep,
5 tight end.
top
Okay,
10,
seven
he's
still.
7.
Um,
He's had some great
Great pick.
games.
Like he had a 22-point game for a tight end is amazing.
Yep.
And then another one is that I ended up picking up the number 1 kicker, Jason Sanders, after I had Greg the Leg on my roster. I just was getting sick of him. And then at the bye week, I'm like, all right, screw Greg. I'm going to hold on to him, but I'm going to pick up Jason Sanders. Okay, so number 2 now. We probably dip down a little bit after tonight's game. But
Almost even
yeah, just
better. You had a
gets.
touchdown last week that got called back. He could have been an
Oh,
incredible kicker
yeah,
for the
true.
season.
But like, wait, can you go back to Jason Sanders real quick?
Yeah.
Like, just look at the consistency in the points. Okay, 4 in the beginning, but then 11, 7, 18, 22,
Yeah.
6, 4, 14, 13, 10, 12, 14. The last 5 weeks, he's gotten double-digit points, and like he's gotten more double-digit points as a kicker than he hasn't. That
Yep.
is ridiculous for a kicker, and he's definitely an All-Pro this year.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. He's had a great season, and definitely a great contributor for a position that you're not really expecting to get that type of points from.
Boomed in 7 games of 12, which is just great. So really happy with the pickups. Marquise Brown and Christian Kirk were my 2 biggest disappointments. I thought they were going to blow
Oh
up,
yeah.
particularly Marquise Brown.
Oh yeah.
Really
Marquise
surprised.
Brown went pretty high in drafts, and I'm glad. I think I might have even been looking at him in this draft, and you got him, and I was a little bit salty on it. But I mean, looking through it, I think the
Well, you
rest of my
lucked
leagues I
out
ended
because
up avoiding him.
I've been thinking about dropping him, but he's had 2 good games in a row, and I don't want to lose him yet. And then Christian Kirk's just been all around not that great.
Yeah, he's been a disappointment. He had 2 good games, 3 good games in a row, and then he
But
goes
not
straight back to
nowhere,
duds.
yeah, nowhere near enough to start him. Like just 0.5 points, 7, 9,
Yeah.
10, and then some shitty ones, and then yeah, and then you got the homeboy Carson Wentz as the QB2. That obviously I've never played him in a game, thankfully. Honestly, he was putting up for a while. Like, okay, you go from week 3 to week 7, 23 points, 23 points, 21 points, 33 points, 31 points. And then even when he started to suck, 18 points, 22 points. But then he's got some real stinkers in there. So obviously not worth a start. Has been riding the bench since I think week 10 when I picked him
Yep.
up. He's probably going to stay there.
Yeah.
So
Let's take a look at the schedule here and see how it played out. So it looks like starting off with a loss against I'm feeling it. Short margin. You got a squeeze by win we talked about earlier with Sheeple
yeah, the one
Shepherd.
point win.
You got
And then
crushed.
a good game like against the Flares. Like, I mean, honestly, okay, I mean, obviously I got crushed, but 112 points
Yeah.
to 150. That is an absurd week.
Right. Yep. And you got a
And
loss, just barely
yeah,
missing the 100 club, losing to
yeah.
Ridley's.
So
You
you
got a
got you got
crush.
you got the 1 and 3 to start out. Going into week 5 is that's when it starts to pick up. Like, look at those points: 140 points, 122 points, 120 points, and then like honestly, like looking at it from here, it doesn't feel like 3 weeks of over 120 points is really good, but it's really good when you have 3 weeks of time to between the games.
Yeah. And in this
Just
league too, I feel like breaking that like 120, I feel like is really the mark. I think hitting 100 can be tough some weeks, but really breaking that 120 means that you're a consistent producer. So like you said, hitting that 3 weeks in a row is
yeah.
definitely an accomplishment in this league.
Yeah, and then going up against you, ironically enough,
Uh-huh.
dropped out of the 100 club entirely, but then right back to form against IWUDM, which is I want you Devontae me. I thought it would be easier, but it wasn't. Back back to the 120 club. That might be a new club we got to make. Is 120 club, and then a loss to 93 points against Nubu Goofin. But then you see the revenge tour, 160
Oh my goodness, the
points,
absolute beatdowns 2 weeks in a
180
row.
points. Yeah, and then even 123 points in the final week, but just that Mahomes decided to just say screw you to my dominance, and then ruined my. So like I've gotten over 120 points, I think, half the season, and my record is still 7-6. So I don't know how that happens, but overall, really happy with my team's performance. Just not happy with the record as much. Glad to be in the playoffs. And now we'll go into my opponent, which is Ridley's Believe It or Not, number 4 seed. Ridley's Believe It or Not. Believe it or not, this team made it to the playoffs as a number 4 seed with an 8-5 record. So we are, and this is a team that was Saquonless for most of the year.
Yeah.
I don't know how a team with Saquon also got Dalvin Cook. I'm guessing there was some, because it says draft for both. That can't be right. Is that right? Or was that double keeper? That's double keeper. It's got
double keeper. Yeah.
Yeah. That is a team with high aspirations just going on the run game alone. You can tell by the free agent pickup of Kirk Cousins that this is a team that was not looking at quarterback play but running back play. So
I don't know though. You look at DK Metcalf and Calvin Ridley. I mean, if Calvin Ridley, I mean, yeah, he's position 10. I mean, they honestly running backs and wide receivers so solid. I think they were just lacking that quarterback to tie it together most of the season.
Yeah. If they had a number 1 quarterback, like maybe you trade some of your bench players for a number 1 QB, that's a solid team. You even got a Robert Tonyan, who's had a low-key awesome year. A lot of touchdown receptions. I think he's got like 6 or 7 touchdowns.
Let's see.
That's a great free agent.
8 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's Zach Ertz level of touchdowns.
Yeah, he's number 4 tight end for the season so far.
And then I think that Rodrigo Blankenship, he might be the number 1 kicker.
Number 6, but had a great season. I mean, over 5 points in most games. He's got a 5 and a 3, a 2, but
yeah, a 2. So actually not as good as I thought. I thought maybe he had a shot, but yeah, just not. So you can see traded for Raheem Mostert. Got Saquon on IR. You can only imagine what this team would have been like with Saquon on it. I think that the Colts might be the number 1 defense. I thought it was the Ravens before, but I think, or it could be the Saints or the Colts. I don't remember, but let's take a look at the number 2. So
Colts are number 2. I think Steelers are 1.
Oh, okay. And then a pretty strong bench. Travis Fulgham obviously picked him up when he was hot, kept him for probably too long, probably not worth starting anymore.
Yeah.
Or 58. So had some good weeks with him, but I think the Cinderella story is done.
Yeah.
Because you got Myles Gaskin starting in your flex.
Myles Gaskin's been a solid running back most of the season. I mean, the only problem was the injury.
Yeah.
But up until then, he was at least an RB2 producer.
Oh, yeah. So 8 points, 11 points, 12 points, 7 points, 17, 14. Bye week, 11 points, and then 4 missed games, and then he came back with 13 points. So a lot of carries. Like, he hasn't had less than 15. Like, his lowest amount of carries was 16 in week 5 until, like, week 4 was 10, and then in week... So a lot of carries.
Yeah, he's a pure volume guy.
Every game. Yep. Yeah. Some good games from him. Honestly surprised. And then you obviously got Dalvin Cook, who I think is the number 1 running back, which would have been insane with Saquon as well, who probably would. Yep. So if he had Saquon and Dalvin Cook, that is if this season doesn't end up in a victory for Ridley's Believe It or Not, it's going to be a big what if for that Saquon injury. But look at this points overall. So let's just go from week 1 to week 13. 21 points, 16 points, 24, 27, 17. Injured in week 6 against Atlanta, then a bye week. 47 points against Green Bay, 38 points the following week, and then his second to worst week in 10, which is against Chicago with 13, 22 points against Dallas, and then his worst week of all, Carolina with 8, and then 20 against Jacksonville. That is absurd.
Absolutely lit the league on fire this year.
23 points. One injury, so the injury concerns there with Dalvin, but he obviously didn't have it because, I mean, missing 1 week as a running back is okay, especially when you're a bell cow like that. 30 points or 30 carries in 2 separate games, almost going back to back. Monster. You can honestly ride that team. Anyway, so week 8, he had 47.6 points. I think that's more than what New Boo Goofin got in that one game by himself.
It is that one play.
So let's take a look at their. I'm going to see what Kirk Cousins finished with. What is he at?
11.
11?
Actually higher than I thought. He's got a negative game
much
in
higher.
here.
Imagine if you didn't have that negative game, he'd probably be a top 8.
Right?
Actually, I don't know because
some great weeks back to back where he's hitting over 20s. He's got 30s in there.
So honestly, anything week 8 and prior, probably not that great. And then honestly, after that, he's been on lighting it up. So probably why he was a free agent pickup. Anything before week 9, not worth starting.
Right.
And then you got Teddy Bridgewater there on the bench. Yeah, really so he no drafted quarterbacks for this team. Both of them are free agent pickups. So started out with an actually really strong week against Joshing around the number 1 seed, 139 to 147, ended up losing, and then 5 weeks in a row of victories with 126 points, 145 points, 123 points, 182 points, 118 points again. And then just a stinker in week 7. So he went 5-1, winning 5 games in a row. I don't know if that's ever been done. And then a week 7 loss in a stinker to 77 points to 124, Lamar the Merrier. Week 8 and week 9, both with 158 points, 116 points. And then 3 absolute stinkers in a row, 63 points, 97 points, 54 points. And
let's give a quick highlight to this right here, too. We got week 11, week 12, back-to-back, and it's keeping up with the Joneses, which is my team. Jack and I, just for a little color behind this, too.
Yeah.
Jack and I made a bet for these weeks all the way back when the draft happened. Here's what I had written down in my little notepad here. We got week 11. If Jesse were to lose, then I would have to do a critique to the movie Step Up. If Jack lost, he'd have to host a Stomp the Yard party where he can do one of the dances from one of the scenes. So we're already looking at that week 11, him having to know this dance from Stomp the Yard, host a party. Week 12, Jack loses. He has to host The Room drinking party, which for those of us who may already know, during his engagement party, he actually had The Room on, and it was part of the celebration.
The Room.
Monumental.
I think that was Lisa's request. Yeah. Great time. So are we making that 2 separate parties, or is it going to be a conjoined party? Considering
that's a good question. I say we do both in the same party. I
mean,
it's 2 movies, one big party,
banger.
And then he has to do the dance of Stomp the Yard in one of them. So we'll keep you posted on whether that gets paid out or not. But I think he absolutely should after this iteration of back-to-back weeks of a stinker of a play. I mean that's a stinker by both of us, and he gets a 54. Yeah. But I obliterated him in the other week.
So it blows my mind first off that, I mean, I guess we're at a point now where we have to face opponents twice at some point. But you guys played each other back to back. I don't know how or why.
We had the same last season. I think it's the way the scheduling goes. I don't know. I don't think it randomizes at this point. So I think every year going forward, we're going to have a back-to-back week.
Oh, well, we got to fix that. Unless you want to keep it.
I don't know. At this point, it's becoming tradition that we have bets during this time.
All right. So we'll keep that. And then he ended up squeaking out a win, 118, 112 points, getting into the playoffs with that last win there, or I should say securing playoffs. So had an amazing season. Definitely Jack's best season since coming into the league, I feel like. Just had some real crap games, probably with the weak Dalvin Cook performance or weaker Dalvin Cook performance, and then probably horrible quarterback play.
Yep.
Like,
And then,
just
like we said, the injury of Saquon. I mean,
Saquon.
he could have been set up for a great season if he had healthy players. And
Honestly, with a healthy Saquon, getting 10, 20, 30 points a game, you're looking at a maybe 1-2 loss season here.
yep, yeah. Let's go back to the rosters. I think that's might be one of the scariest rosters if it was healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Other than the quarterback, like we said, but I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
wide receivers are
Really went
great,
heavy
tight
with the
end great.
receivers, quarterbacks, defense, kicker, like all around the board, a great roster. Just, I mean, maybe a little bit weaker in the bench, but that's fine. Um, yeah, great roster. Over, like, honestly, looking at these, that's a great roster. Moving on up to keeping up with the Joneses. Yours truly over there on the other end.
Right, this is my team.
Yeah, the number 3 seed. How do you feel getting that top 3 spot?
I got lucky. You'll see from most of the games that we look at. I think even looking at the points against, I played everyone the perfect weeks for them to score one of their lowest. So I snuck by in a lot of games. I mean, you see this roster. It doesn't really show the record that it's at now. It's honestly a patched up roster with a lot of the players. In the draft, I feel like I didn't even do that great if you look at some of the draft players. But overall, I mean, Kamara, obviously solid producer. I traded away. I had Julio Jones beginning of the season, traded him away to Sully, the Shepherd Sheeples or whatever. Or no, I traded to Holiday Inn, um, for CD Lamb and Jerick McKinnon, which hindsight, terrible trade. But CD Lamb was on the climb with Dak Prescott, so I thought I was going to get a very
Yeah.
good receiver that was growing, and which he still may be next season, but didn't pan out this season. And then Jerick McKinnon, who just became an absolute bust. So I'll let you take it from there, picking through players and giving your opinion.
Okay. So first thing I noticed is, I mean, obviously you're the biggest trader in the entire league. Not trader with TRAIT,
Traitor.
but a TRADER, biggest trader in the league every year. So I'm already seeing 1, 2, 3, 4 traded players on here. So I'm sure there's probably others that have been dropped or whatever, but probably less than I expected. So yeah, drafted players not seeing as many. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drafted players. One of them being Alvin Kamara, obviously, and then another one in Robert Woods and Allen Robinson. So the clear studs staying on the team. The rest of them just dumped immediately, I'm sure. Cam Newton sticking in there. Not seeing another quarterback, which surprises me. But overall, so like, okay, so Alvin Kamara obviously probably at what, number 3? Okay, yeah. So Cam Newton not doing so hot.
Number 2 running back
number
in the
2,
season.
number 2. Oh yeah, Derrick Henry's number 3. So obviously a great pickup. His worst week was against Denver. This Denver's defense better than I thought it was apparently.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like looking at the points, 21, 33, 38, 20, 18, bye week, 18, 20, 13, 31, 10, 5, and 16 points. Just a phenomenal year from Kamara.
Absolutely somebody that carried me through my matchups without a doubt. I think the weeks that I scored big, he was one of the high producers, and definitely led me to where I was at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And then you're trading for Travis Kelce, obviously a great pickup anytime you can get him. I'm assuming he's the number 1 tight end. Yep. There it is. So 14, 19, 11, 8, 20, 19, 4, 20, 20, 22, 12, 23. That is absurd numbers. Wait, I want to see these receiving yards again. Go back down real quick. So from go back down. Yep. So from week 8, 109 receiving yards, 159 receiving yards, bye week, 127 receiving yards, 82 receiving yards, and 136 with 3 touchdowns in that time span. That is just monstrous. Like, if
he's got 1,000 yards receiving. He's got 13.6 average yards per catch, 8 touchdowns, 110 targets, 82 receptions. It's just an insane stat line for a season. And it's not done yet.
Honestly, yeah. And you traded for this guy, which is why Shepherd Sheeple is in last place and you're in third place.
Absolutely.
Good God, what an amazing trade that was for you. Then I'm seeing a lot of free agent pickups. Brandon Cooks, I'm shocked that was available a free agent. I know he wasn't playing that well, but there he is.
No, when
30th
I picked him up,
overall.
he ended up becoming a pretty good pickup. I think might have picked him up. I think he might have got dropped in the bye week frame there, and I had him these last couple games. But even still, he had a 26, 17, 9. I mean, he's
Fine, yeah.
30.
I mean,
That's kind of
not number, yeah, not like standout numbers, but
yeah,
like when you throw in those
solid
threes in a
flex.
zero game
Yeah,
where he targeted 3 times and had no catches. So like that's a team, or that's a guy you're trying to like maybe lose or try to sell high
yep,
if you can. But yeah, honestly, a great flex pickup.
yep.
And then let's see. So honestly, the weakest point I'm gonna have to give it to is the quarterback with
Yeah,
Cam Newton, and then no backup. Um, it's like literally you're just riding or dying with Cam. So apparently, like even right now as we're speaking, the Patriots are playing the Rams, and I think they just took him out. I don't know if he's hurt or if they're benching him or what. But that's just like not a strong quarterback play. He's a 21st quarterback. Started out really strong, 25 points, 36 points, and then he just kind of lost it from there.
yep.
13 points hurt against Kansas City by
Some
17
real
negative
bad
points against San
duds.
Francisco.
Yeah,
Yeah, just some real shit games.
yep.
And then I don't even know. So the Chiefs defense, I don't know how that team is doing
Yeah, I
defensively.
floated a bunch of defenses
Well,
throughout the season. I didn't really hold on to anybody. I kind of played the
yeah.
matchups. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so you could see,
And I feel like that's the best way to do it.
yeah,
You don't want to afford a defense unless they're a top 3 defense.
yep.
And
So I don't think
then
I
Justin
drafted anybody
Tucker
good.
there.
Just got it from there.
And then some interesting free agent pickups with like these like lower tier guys that are will get you numbers like Nelson Aguilar having an actually decent year. Kalen Balaj having a good year when he plays. Okay, maybe not a good year.
Yeah, well, the
15,
weeks that he
12.
started,
Yeah.
these 9 through 11 was when Eckler was out, and then
Mm-hmm.
Balaj, I think Jackson and Kelly, was
Ju-
it?
Justin Jackson and was it Josh Kelly?
Josh Kelly were both out, or something to that matter. That basically it was Balaj was the clear cut, and
Yeah,
he was a stud. I mean, he
yeah. But
solid
other
producer.
than that, yeah, those 3 weeks from week 9 to 11 was great. Other than that, he was pretty much a bust. James White had some really. Oh, I'm sorry, I think Rex Burkhead. James White, I don't even think really did much this year. I don't
Yeah, I
know.
think I picked him up later off waivers. He got dropped around. Yeah, I picked him up November 26th. So,
Yeah.
but this was the roster that I was riding Mike Davis most of the season,
Mm-hmm.
with the outage of McCaffrey. So that really
So
carried me with
that's
Kamara.
something that we're not seeing right now. Is that
Yeah,
an Alvin Kamara and Mike Davis filled roster with with the best tight end and some decent enough play from the other players to carry the team. So you rode with those 3 guys, and that's what's gotten
yep,
you. Honestly, you can thank Alvin Kamara, Mike Davis, and Travis Kelce. Otherwise, I don't think you'd be in this position at the number
yeah,
3 spot.
agreed.
Because looking at the roster now, it's a little bit weaker without Mike Davis on it. But being able to get Austin Eckler once Christian McCaffrey came back was a great choice if he can get back to that form. Because honestly, Austin Eckler was a top 10 pick in the draft. I feel
Yep,
like. Um, so great pickup, especially for
yeah.
playoff time. So let's take a look at the schedule, how the strength of the schedule for that. So let's see here. So started out strong, 111 points to 109 victory against New Boot Goofin. Then lost. I had a good game, 127 points against Josh and around, but he just had a better one with 146. Then blew it up against Lamar the Merrier with 164 points. So you didn't drop out of 100 points until week 7, which is absurd. And
Yeah,
of course, you would do that against the Sheeple Shepherd.
of course.
Yep. So you went what's that? 4-2 in the first 6 weeks without dropping under 110 points, 111 points. Then had a shit week against the Shit Shepherd. Then lost a close one against yours truly, Rager Bombs
Yep,
in week
yep.
8. 108 points against the Flaters going to Deflate. Didn't win that one. 95 points against Avantu Devant. Blah, 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 blah. So only dropped out of the 100 club 3 times out of the 13 weeks. A really strong year. Even won against Ridley's, believe it or not, when you had 87 points and he had 54.
Right.
So
yeah.
Overall, really great year. Good stuff from the current champion.
Yeah, it's true. Reigning champion of last season. It looks like we're going to get a mix again if Joshing Around holds tight. Honestly, Joshing Around or Deflators, right? If either of those teams run through, then we could have a new winner again in the league. We've been pretty consistent of getting a new winner per year.
I do like that about our league, is that every year so far we've had a new winner every year, and there's actually a good chance. The only former champions in this bracket right now are you, me, and TJ.
Yep.
So we got just fingers crossed it doesn't go to Jared.
That's right. We're all
right. So exactly. So speaking of which, let's get to him. Deflator's going to deflate with a 9-4 record. Honestly, this guy, he scares me every year. He has good draft, good team,
great drafter. He's always a great drafter.
Yeah, he's always in the top 5. Pisses me off every year.
Yeah, has to.
Yeah. So let's take a look. He's obviously got Russell Wilson, who was a MVP candidate until probably about like a couple weeks ago when he finally started to level out. I feel like I thought he was finally going to win MVP this year. Kind of fell off the earth a little bit, and then Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers blew it back up. Still, number 4 overall quarterback. A lot of 30s and 40s. His weakest game was against the Rams with 9 points, and then against Philly, ironically enough, with 16. Other than that, 24, 26, 36, 35, 30, 24, 46, 43, 39. A great quarterback every year, holding true.
Yep.
So going into that, Nick Chubb, who I'm assuming is a top 5. Well, no, he did have a couple of hurt weeks, so 18, but his points don't show that. 25,
yeah, you look
23.
at the points. I mean, he's showing top 10.
Yep. The game, if you average the games played, he'd probably in the top 10.
Yeah,
He's a great all around player, but yeah, he had about 5 weeks there where he wasn't playing, including the bye week. But overall, great player. Let's see here, and then had John Brown on the IR, so that's not really. So another thing I should have mentioned this first. Looking at his draft versus free agent versus trades, looks like it's about split. So I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 drafted players versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 free agent pickups, no traded players on the roster. 2 kickers. You got Young Ho Koo and Will Lutz. Both of those guys, honestly, really good kickers. Not gonna lie.
yeah.
Got Ezekiel Elliott riding the bench, understandably. You know he's having a rough year when Wayne Gallman is getting the start over Zeke.
Yeah, I think he's got a calf injury, and I think they said that they didn't expect him to play this week, so I think it's circumstantial for this week. But I mean, he's had a good season.
Yeah, I'm honestly
top
surprised 10. I'm surprised he's actually ranked at 7. I think a lot of that rides within those first 5 weeks of play where he was good, and then he just fell off.
Yeah, I mean, average is 13.4 points, so really not great in comparison to some of the other studs that we've seen so far. But
yeah,
he's up there.
That number 7 ranking is really games, not consistent play though.
Yeah,
like he's 5 stellar games with 20 plus points, and then a bunch of games that are just below 10 or below double digits, which is not something you want from a number 2, number 3 overall pick.
Right.
And then you look at the receivers. You got Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, and Juju Smith-Schuster. Both are all three of those guys pretty solid, but not number one guys. Like no big receiver really standing out, especially Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, Deebo's had a
6
great
points.
season when he's in. He's just been hurt
Yeah,
and out.
just not been in. Just not having the best season. And then Cooper Kupp, I honestly don't see him as WR1. 24th ranked position player. He's played all the games. Been pretty consistently good with a couple of stinkers. I just don't see him as a number one guy. I don't
Yeah,
really see a number one receiver on this whole team except for maybe Juju Smith-Schuster.
he's still 26. I mean, he wasn't. Same thing. It looks like for the most part, he's got consistent producers. Very little off weeks for each of the receivers, but no blow up big
Yeah,
weeks.
that's a great way to put it. Yeah, no blowups, but consistent players. So that's good enough to get the number 2 seed. And you got Evan Ingram there, famous for that drop in Philly, losing the game for them. Kind of a so-so tight end, nothing
Yeah,
special.
13. I mean, tight ends drop off pretty quick after the top five, so 13 is not
Yep.
impressive to me.
Yep. Honestly, a 13 position tight end is like a 60 position running back.
Right.
It's not good. And then you got some free agent pickups: Giovanni Bernard, Jamal Williams, Jacoby Myers, Corey Davis. Not guys you really want to put in your lineup with confidence. Those are guys that you pray have a good week if you put them in.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this roster now, I'm super surprised that he's where he is. It has to be just that consistent production throughout the season because none of these names really stand out to you as super. I mean,
yeah,
Russell Wilson, Nick Chubb, Ezekiel Elliott. I think it has to be some of those weeks he just rode on Russell Wilson when he hit his 40 bombs and things like that, and the consistency across the rest of the team just kind of slid him through.
Dude, absolutely. Yeah,
So,
I feel like there's probably got to be a lot of luck with the schedule. Let's take a look at that. Ease of schedule is a big thing with this. So let's look at week 1. 45-point victory over a Hotel Motel, and then a loss to Mahomes. 7-point loss. It was 129-136. So that was just an unlucky loss. Then 150-point victory over Rager Bombs, who had 112, so that's pretty good. And then 104 points, which isn't actually that spectacular anymore, over I Want You, Devontae, me. I'm getting used to saying that now.
yeah.
Who had 64
Slim
points,
margin
and
for the next.
slim margin, Nubu Goofin, then a shit show or a shit showing against Lamar the Merrier, 61 points, 101 points, and then a 4-point win streak, 119, 133, 117, and then an 87-point stinker that he pulled out. So yeah, none of the. I'm looking at the opponent scores now. That's what I want to actually look at. So from week 1 to week 10, I'll do 80 points, 136 points when he lost, 112-point win, 68 points for the opponent they lost that one, 99 points for Nubu Goofin, Lamar the Merrier, 101 points. So honestly, he's gotten very good luck when it comes to the opponent's scores.
Yeah, and looking at it too, now that we're towards the end of it, let's look at the points against here. I mean, I think he has the lowest points. He does. He has the lowest points
in the
against.
Yeah, in the entire league, yeah. By 100.
Yeah.
Almost 100. Yes, so that really speaks to that record.
And then points for, he's right in the middle. I mean, he's not even one of the highest point scorers.
Yeah. So real ease of schedule.
Yeah.
So you got Rager Bombs with the most with like 1596, and they are just 4 points higher than points against. So for just to kind of put that into perspective, Rager Bombs 100 or 1596 points for 100 or 1592 points against. So they just ended up having. I mean, I could say I just ended up having really shitty luck when it comes to the scheduling and the points and all that stuff. Whereas Deflator's Gonna Deflate had super luck and basically rode luck into into the number 2 seed.
Right.
Yep. So you can see that I had the highest points for and the highest points against. I don't know how that works out, but there you have it.
Insane. Dalton holding in tight there. I think he's got.
So. Yeah, but you look at the points against him. Where's he?
Right in the middle.
Right in the middle.
Yep, it's crazy.
That is wild how that works. But that's fantasy for you.
All right, let's make our way to the final team.
All right, I'll say the luckiest / best roster on the team. So let's take a look. Josh Allen, the guy that I wanted, probably top 5 quarterback. I gotta say maybe 3 or number 5. Yeah. A lot of rushing touchdowns.
Great start to the season. I mean, God, he was on a streak.
Yeah. His lowest game was a 12-pointer. He got 32 points, 42 points, 39, 29, 20, 19, 16, 12, so a little bit of a dip, but then right back into form with 42 points, 30 points, bye week, 17 points, and then a 38-point game. So consistent starter, never benching him, no reason to bench him, except for maybe when he had the bye week, and then his backup quarterback, he doesn't even have one at the moment. Oh, Kyler Murray. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, he's had a stacked roster. So the number 3.
So Kyler Murray's even better than Josh Allen is.
Yeah, Kyler Murray has had an insane season. I mean, 40s, 30s, 20, high 20s, a 7.9. Other than that, he didn't drop below 20, right?
No. His lowest game besides the 7-point game was 22 points. Other than that, he's like 34. It's just his quarterback pickups are remarkably good.
So he had 10 rushing touchdowns, 22 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Not great, but
yeah,
I mean, the rushing touchdowns is really where it gets you a lot too.
Exactly, because those are well, I was gonna say, never mind. I'll just go past.
Yeah, our league's tied, right? Throwing and rushing.
Yeah. Might need to change that later on, but I'll cut that part out.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly, like just having a top 5 and a top 3 quarterback to choose from, like you can't really lose. You just got to look at the defense, and you're going to get an automatic 20, 30 points between those two guys.
Oh yeah.
And he drafted both of them. So great drafting, and then he's got the number 1 defense in the Steelers. Just going to cut down to that. Drafted Kenyon Drake, which is probably his number 1 pick if I had to take a guess. Stephon Diggs, great number 7. So yeah, Kenyon Drake 14. Stephon Diggs number 7, another great receiver who's having a great year. Probably definitely going to be a Pro Bowler, if not an All-Pro this year. Yeah. Justin Jefferson, probably Rookie of the Year, and he picked him up in free agency, so a great pickup. Just Frank Gore is the only thing that's really striking me in the starting lineup is questionable. You got Scary Terry McLaurin is a flex.
It looks like he had Josh Jacobs who's out, so it looks like Frank Gore's a fill-in this week. Well, he's in the bye week anyway, so
yeah. So the only reason that Frank Gore's in there is because that Josh Jacobs player, and then you got Jakeem Grant, who don't always seems to pick up, and he can be sneaky good. Like he can get a kick return for a touchdown. So
you got a 20
this
here,
year
you got a
didn't
16.
really have too many. Yeah, he's a boomer bust option. Like you only put him in there if you have no other choice, and you're hoping for a kick return.
Right.
You're not putting him in there, but. And then you got, I think, one of the best kickers in the league in Harrison Butker. Zach Ertz, who had a not so great year this year, but he's got Dalton Schultz to back him up, who's actually been doing pretty decent. And then Jamison Crowder is a solid receiver to have on the bench. No trades. He's also got an empty bench slot, which is something that he always does. I don't understand that, but he doesn't fill up his team. He just leaves like one
empty bench. Slot. It's solid, but it's like he hasn't tried to get anybody else.
Yeah, he just rides or dies with what he's got. So he's got 5 free agent drafted really well and had a really good luck of schedule. Honestly, like just not to say that he didn't do great this year because he did, but like just that strength of schedule really does play a factor. So speaking of which, let's take a look. So he had a 147 points to 100. Like, see, that's a
140
game
plus games the first 2
lost.
weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. 147 points week 1 and 146 week 2. So like those are both, and like the opponents that week, like it was Jack and you, 139 points and then 127. Those are games he easily could have lost that he just ended up winning. So that's again just luck really coming in. And then 90 points to 93-point loss. Again, luck, but on the other side. Then 101, 107, 121. So going into week 6, he was 3-3, so nothing special. And then you go to that week 7, and that is the last time that Josh around lost. From week 8 to week 13, win, 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 and a win. Just remarkable
Only
way to come
2
back.
games under 100, and that's that week 7 and week 3, right? Other than
Yep.
that, 100 plus games and went on a winning streak of 6 at the end. Insane.
Mm-hmm. Yep, he had a 3-week losing streak from 3 to 5. Probably felt like the season was getting like going to be over, and then all of a sudden he wins 7 of 8 games to end the year and get the number 1 seed in the, like, this is by far his best year since joining the league. Clearly,
Oh, without a doubt.
yeah, and is a potential favorite to win this thing. I mean, like, I know that bye is huge. So all right, so that's the breakdown of all the seasons of the team. So I know that was like good amount of time, but like I feel like for this first one, like we were talking about earlier, it's going to be a little bit longer. So now we'll break into the playoff matchups. So we got Josh around the number 1 seed. So he's got the bye. Deflator's going to deflate. I think this is like the second time that he might have been a top 2 seed, maybe a third time. And then we got the 4 and 5 seed going up against each other. Ridley's Believe It or Not, which is honestly probably Jack's best year since joining into the league. Maybe we're top, at least one of the top ones, versus Rager Bombs. 5th seed, consistent playoff performer, but never really recaptured that that magic when they won it finally against when Chris Clark was in the league. So Jesse, as an outsider, who do you think's got this matchup?
Oh, I think by far. Well, I wouldn't go by far. I mean, I think Rager has, your team has the matchup. I think just looking at it, I mean, running backs overall better. You got Tariq Hill, who is above and beyond the both wide receivers that he has. Gasecki and Tanyan are going to be a good matchup against each other. The flex is where it really comes in. I think David Montgomery's got a much better chance at scoring you some points than Myles Gaskin gets for Ridley's. We talked about, it's 2 great kickers. Honestly, this matchup's pretty equal when you look down to it. The QBs is where it's really going to come in. I think, Deshaun Watson definitely is going to have a much better opportunity than Kirk Cousins, both going against good defenses. You got Chicago and Tampa Bay. So it could be tough matchups for both, but I think Deshaun Watson has the rushing ability there. It's going to give him the ability over Kirk Cousins. Yeah, I mean, it's like great. It goes like this: tough quarterback matchups. I think the running backs are both the top guys in the league that are going to do great. The second running backs are where it gets a little sticky. Who knows if they're really going to have the game that they're projected for each side. I think Tariq Hill versus DK Metcalf, honestly, is the way that it would match up. Which one's going to have the better game? Yep. Calvin Ridley and Mike Williams could be hit or miss. And then you got
I might even start Chris Godwin over Mike Williams. I haven't decided on that yet.
I would probably do that. I think Minnesota's defense honestly hasn't been too great.
I'm most likely going to do it, but Mike Williams has had some blowout games, especially against a poor defense against Atlanta. So probably going to put Chris Godwin in. I'm kind of banking on this Bucks versus Vikings game. So Jack has Kirk Cousins and Dalvin Cook. If Tampa Bay can shut them both down and then put up some points with Chris Godwin and put up some points with Chris Godwin, basically, And I think that could like seal it right there. If like Tampa Bay ends up blowing out Minnesota, that's game over. And then you got the two kings, the king rushers, Derrick Henry against Dalvin Cook. Like again, it could come down to one of those two guys. Like if one of them has a blow up game, the other one struggles, or vice versa. Like you see Derrick Henry projected 20 points, Dalvin Cook 19.5. Like it's razor thin.
Yep.
It's just going to come down to who has a I don't know, just who has the better luck, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it could definitely go either way. So we'll see how that plays out there. Going back to, let me go back to the playoff bracket. How do I get back there? Maybe I can do.
You couldn't just click on it, like on the matchup.
I could click this matchup here. So this is the other matchup of the other bracket in the playoff bracket. This is Keeping Up with the Joneses, my team, and Lamar the Merrier, TJ's team. So yeah, I mean, we already talked about this going live a little bit. This game was brutal of the Rams against New England. I got 5 points from Robert Woods here, and Cam Newton took a big old stinker and got 4 points. Got benched for Jared Stidham. I just saw a tweet from Bill Belichick. They asked him who's going to be the quarterback for next week. Is it Stidham? Is it Newton? And he said, "Good question. Cam's the quarterback." So we're back in the competition again. But Cam's stuck around all year, so we'll see.
They benched him in the game. They didn't.
Yeah, I didn't see it all yet, but it seems like they might have benched him for poor play. So,
yikes!
Yeah,
that's not good.
But yeah, so not looking hot for me off the bat here. I think going into it, I would have thought my chances were pretty fair. I don't know, Tyler. I'll let you take it from there as to what you think you're seeing here.
Yeah, okay, so going into that, the QB and the wide receiver, obviously, that's got to be pretty heartbreaking because it projected 29 points that you didn't get. That's 20 points less than you were hoping for. But that being said, I still see a feasible chance of you pulling this out with a big Alvin Kamara game against Philly. I hate to say it because Eagles, but Alvin Kamara will probably put up 15 to 20 points on that defense. I mean, they can stuff the run, but when they start to lose too much and then the game's out of sight, they just let the run game kind of have its way. So I can see Alvin Kamara having a big game. Austin Eckler, I can honestly, again, Atlanta's defense, don't see Atlanta putting up much of a stop against the Chargers. I honestly think that game's going to be a shootout. I think that's going to be a pretty big offensive game. So Austin Eckler, I can see putting up that 16 points. Allen Robinson against Houston. Again, another defense that's not as good as it used to be. I remember when Houston used to be a dynamic defense, not so much anymore. So I can see him putting up about 10. Travis Kelce against Miami. He should have a field day against that team. I don't know if they should win. I think it'll be another team where they're just dropping bombs to Kansas City players. So I could see Travis Kelce pulling in like maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns. Brandon Cooks is an interesting choice. I could see that going rather as a bust with that defense or just having a great day. Chiefs defense, not sure how that's going to go. Justin Tucker, not going to really get into much of the kicker side. On the other side of the field, Lamar Jackson against Cleveland. Cleveland's defense has actually been playing really well.
Yeah.
And it's a Monday night game. We'll see how they do. Both teams really need to win that game, so I can see that being a really low-scoring game. So I can see Lamar Jackson not putting up that many points. He might rush in a touchdown or two, which might kill it. But overall, don't know how that's going to go. DeAndre Swift, honestly, I think that projection's a little high, especially against Green Bay. I know they haven't been doing that great against the run, but DeAndre Swift is just not that star running back that I think everyone else thinks he is, but that's just me. James Robinson, that's going to be a big one to look out for. If he has a blow-up game, that could just seal it for Lamar the Merrier. If he doesn't do anything, that could seal it the other way for you. So A.J. Brown, Chase Claypool, those are going to be middle pack guys. I think they're going to get like 10 points each, maybe not much more than that. Dallas Goedert, that's a risky start. I can maybe see him getting a touchdown and a couple of receptions. Jonathan Taylor, about the same defense against Philly. Probably not going to do Probably going to fumble the ball, probably going to throw some picks. I hate to say it because I hate seeing it, but it happens. And Daniel Carson is kicker. So overall, I do have to give a slight edge to Lamar just because you already have your quarterback and wide receiver play, and they haven't shown up. But I'm not ruling you out. I think you still have a shot.
I think that's a fair judgment there, and I could see a little bit of the same with each that you said there. So curious to see how it plays out, but right now I'm not feeling too confident.
Yeah. How do you guys' benches look?
Let's see. So Scott McCaffrey, who's not playing this week, so thank goodness for that. We got Tyler Boyd, Latavius Murray, Antonio Brown. So okay bench, great defense, obviously with the Bears. I got DJ Chark, who actually I'm debating swapping him with Cooks, even though he's got the lower projection. I think he has the potential with Tennessee's defense really kind of showing their weakness with last week's game with Cleveland getting 4 touchdowns right off the bat. He has the potential to have a good game, so we'll see if I make that choice or not.
Yeah, honestly, I was just about to say, I think you might need to be in a boomer bust type of situation with how poorly those other two guys played. Where Brandon Cooks, he's probably going to get you 10 to 15 points, whereas DJ Chark can throw up 20 to 25 or 3 to 4. So if you're feeling desperate enough, I would start to feel DJ Chark going in there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's a tough call.
Yeah, and then the rest of them are all middle of the pack guys. They could potentially squeeze out 5 to 10 points, but probably not any boom players that I'm seeing.
Yeah, but I mean, either way, these honestly, both of these matchups are going to be super tight. I don't think there's going to be any blowouts one way or the other. I think it's going to be two people are getting their hearts broken this weekend, and then 2 people are going to be super excited.
Yeah.
So we'll see if the former champ and the current champ can stick in there, or if the two guy, or if we got Ridley's Believe It or Not going for their first championship. Same with Josh Around. Same with Deflator's going to deflate. So yeah. Otherwise, all in all, pretty crazy season. Like no real standout teams. I mean, Josh and Around was in the top for a good while. And then it was like a mismatch of players for the number 2 spot. It was like Ridley's Believe It or Not looked like they were going to be the guy. And then Keeping Up with the Joneses had a big surge, and they looked like they were going to be the guy. Then Deflator's going to deflate is always in the top 3. Same with Lamar Lamary, who ended up falling off. And then Rager Bombs was making a comeback. These playoff teams are looking just pretty close. I don't see any standouts. I think it's all going to just come down to a lot of luck.
I can agree with that. So I'm curious to see how it plays out.
All right, and then just for fun, let's look at the losers.
So let's go down to the consolation ladder here.
Let's see here. I honestly think that Chit Shepherd's just going to lose it.
Oh, yeah. I think he sold his team out at the end of the season. I mean, you already saw the Travis Kelce trade. That was beginning of the season when he actually thought about it a little bit, but I know he gave, I think, Raheem Mostert.
His heart's not in it right now.
Yeah, Austin Eckler came to me. Raheem Mostert went to Ridley's. There was a lot of sellout trades at the end of the season there that really tore his team apart and didn't give him a good shot at the rest of the season. So I think it's a clear-cut loser in the consolation bracket, but we'll see.
All right, guys. So that's pretty much all we got. So you got the commission, the champ, just wrapping up here. Overall, I think this is going to be a pretty interesting playoff. Like we were just saying before, not a lot of like standouts, but I mean, like obviously, like I think you got to give a shout out to Dalton because he's been a guy that's been in the bottom 3 every single year. Now look at him; he's at the number 1 seed. This is like watching the Browns go from 0-16 to 9-3, like what they're doing currently. Like honestly, like not as a shit on Dalton, but like let's just be real. Like this is his best year by far. And rooting for him a little bit. I mean, obviously I want to win, but if I have to give my money to anybody else to win this thing or like hope somebody wins, I kind of want to root for Dalton's team. Jesse, you got any favorites besides yourself to retain?
I mean, obviously I'm partial to wanting to be the first repeating champion of the league, but
true.
Outside of that, I think it's a competitive season. It's really tough to say if there's a true favorite. I think
No
I'm
10-win
fully against
teams. First
Jared.
time, I think.
I think fully
Yeah.
against Jared that Deflator's Gun Deflate is absolutely one of the most hated of the final bracket here.
Yep. The
But
Patriots.
I think Dalton's a good favorite to root for. Like you said, it's a great season for him. So we'll see how
Yeah.
it plays.
Absolutely, yeah. True underdog story, and then you got Deflator's gonna deflate, who's just always just the asshole of the playoffs. Like you
Every
just
time.
never want to, never want to see that guy pull it. Nothing he did. I don't know why I would just
Yeah.
like it's just.
There's no
It's just kinda,
real reason to dislike him other than I think drafts are usually him talking shit and us, poo pooing him the rest of the season. And then he does well. And it's like, oh man, we
yeah.
talked all that shit and
He
here he
talks
is.
shit and he backs it up. Yep, he
Yeah.
talks shit, backs it up, and it's really frustrating. So it's
Yep.
good to see him lose.
That's right.
So whereas Dalton's the exact opposite. He doesn't talk any shit, barely shows up sometimes, and then I automatically just pulls out. But this is the first time we've never had a double-digit number one seed winner. I don't think. Like I think 9-4 is probably the worst record. Not that it's a great record, but not that it's probably the lowest record we've had. Considering like we used to do week 17, and then we also used to have less people in the playoff or less people in the league. So 9-4 record it's something to be proud of, especially with that 6-game win streak or whatever it was, 6-game win streak. Coming literally from the mid to the low end all the way to the number one seed. And then you got yourself with 8-5, and then I think I can't remember what Jack's, but I think it says 8-5, and then Jared 9-4, I think as well, maybe just not as many points for. Actually, Jared with the least amount of points for and the least amount of points against. So that's another reason to make that team not want to win. It just seems like they just strolled into the playoffs for lack of competition, even though we were the competition. And then you got former champion Rager Bombs trying to just pull out another win, and then you got another contender. Honestly, I thought that Ridley's, believe it or not, was going to be the number one seed going into this playoffs. I'm surprised that they didn't really get that far. They got into the playoffs, which is good, but I thought they were going to be much higher in the rankings than they were. But overall, it's going to be really exciting to see, and also hoping that the pube contenders, they got to keep at it. You don't want to be that pube. You don't want just because Shepherd or the I don't remember the shit Shepherd, whatever his name
the
is.
shit sheeple shepherd.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means, but just because he's the lowest on the totem pole doesn't mean he's the pube. So you got to make sure you watch out for that. And keep yourselves from that contention. We want to make sure that he gets that.
That's right. That's right.
But otherwise, man, I had a great time fucking doing this. This was a lot of fun. And I'm definitely looking forward to, whether win or lose for you or myself, doing next week's matchups and see how that goes. It's going to be a lot shorter for sure, with less to talk about, but it's going to be good.
Absolutely. Much quicker recap. But I think it was good to get this out of the way and kind of catch us up on what we missed this whole season and really start it out fresh. And next week's going to be a fun one, and happy to continue it further.
Dude, yeah, me too. But all right, guys. So thanks a lot for listening. This is the Commish and the Champ signing out. We will see you guys soon, hopefully. And hope you enjoyed it.